I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening. For the first board meeting, I have the opportunity to run because Bill's running a little bit late. We have a packed house, so thanks for everybody showing up because I know it was for me, right?
That's exactly what
No,
it was.
I didn't think so. Just a couple points of clarification on the agenda. We do have a closed session following this. It was on the last minutes. I noticed it was omitted from here. Okay, so please make sure we add that. It's for personnel discussion. Any other changes to the agenda?
I have just a couple. In item number 4 under discussion topics, Ted Maroney was slated to give the final report of the Community Central Task Force. Ted won't be here today, so I will be giving the report on his behalf.
Any other changes?
The swim and racket bid deck proposal. That was a proposal I was hoping to have from an architect that was going to give us some design and bid specifications. I do not have his proposal yet, so I'd like to take that off, and when I do get those proposals, I'll be back to you with that.
Any other changes, amendments?
The CPI violations you want to talk about. They aren't really a change to the agenda, but originally we had 4 CPI violations slated for consideration tonight.
Right.
One's been resolved, and the other one we're going to table until it's been re-reviewed.
Right, so we'll just deal
So we're
with
going to
2.
cover 2 tonight?
Which one's going to be tabled?
I'm sorry. What was that?
Of the 4 CPI violations that were in our packets, we're only going to discuss 2 of them. One has been resolved, and one is being tabled.
Which one's being tabled?
Pete?
Here are the addresses there.
We had 37 Greenway Lane.
Here they are. I got them right here. We are
Taking off 118 Camelot.
taking off 118 Camelot,
Resolved.
and then Brookton Lane is continuing on. 37 Greenwood Lane is being postponed.
Why?
Because it's, need to have a broader discussion about unlicensed vehicles versus
That's
other
not
vehicles.
like the present.
Well, let's do that.
No, let me tell you why it's being postponed. There is a task force meeting, and our attorney's going to be present for that, the next meeting. And I talked to Bill Rako about it this afternoon, and we feel that we need a broader discussion of this issue with abandoned vehicles, junk vehicles versus unregistered vehicles. As you and I talked earlier today, Marty, you could have a brand-new Cadillac or Mercedes in your driveway, and under the theory that it's not have a current registration, it would be subjected to action by the board. So we want the opportunity to talk about that in the context not just of this one vehicle, but in other vehicles that might have similar situations. So postponing action on this one allows us to have that broader discussion at the next meeting of the task force. So the 2 issues, the 2 items that would be remaining on the agenda today include, as you see from the photographs, a lot of trash and debris and things that require cleaning up versus a vehicle without a current tag.
All right. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll get the 2 covered. And then we'll push the one and the other's been resolved.
Well, I mean,
And we can talk about more
it
when
was
we
on the
get to that.
agenda. I spent a lot of time prepping for it. I'm opposed to it being taken off the agenda, but if you want to table it, table it. We're good at putting things off. Let's put it off.
Let's put it off.
Put it off. Put it off. Don't do anything today that might.
All right, any other changes or amendments to the agenda? All right, if there's no other changes, we'll approve it and we'll move forward. Okay, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. 9/16/09, 9/23/09, and 9/28/09. We all received, yes.
Can you separate them out? Only because I wasn't at one of them.
Sure. 9/16/09 was our regular meeting, okay? 9/23/09, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that was the one that we covered that was a closed session meeting, and we discussed the lease issues.
If we're going to separate them out, you'd consider a motion to accept the 9/16.
Well, I want to explain to Mario which
We'll
the
have three
three
separate
are.
motions to deal with three separate sets of minutes.
Yeah, but I want to explain what
Okay,
each of them are.
23rd, I wasn't here.
Okay, is that the one you were concerned about? Okay.
I wasn't here.
Well, yeah, he's not
So
here and
it's
you
hard
don't
for
want
me
to vote on it.
to
Sure.
approve the minutes.
So we'll
Okay,
take them
fair enough.
individually.
Okay, so 9/16/09, all in favor? Any against? So passed,
So Marty, who moved that?
All in favor, aye?
none against.
Actually, do it just by
Seconded?
acclamation.
Yeah,
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Les moved. it.
okay.
All right, Les moved.
Pete seconded.
Oh, yes.
All in favor? Okay.
9/23/09,
Closed session.
that was closed session.
I wasn't there.
All right, Marty
Somebody move it.
abstained.
I'll move adoption. Or approve approval of the
Motion.
minutes.
Any
second that
second?
one.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
One
Just
abstention.
One
abstained.
abstention.
He wasn't there.
Fair enough. 9/28/09,
I move we accept them.
I'll second it.
got those? All in favor?
Aye.
Any, aye, any against? So passed. Okay, for those that see this, we're going to rearrange this a little bit, but before we jump into, we're going to start, which is a little unusual, public comments, because we have enough folks in here that I think want to speak. Instead of making you all wait for a 2-hour agenda, going through the full agenda to speak, we thought we'd lead off with that. But before we do, I just wanted to recognize for those who haven't seen this, and it wasn't on the agenda, but I felt it was appropriate to do, the Worcester County Commission for Women will honor Ms. Phyllis this Sunday, so congratulations.
Here, here. That's a big deal, Phil.
One of 4 in the county, that's wonderful.
Is this for her ability to put up with 7 wackos?
This is for contributing to the quality of our lives.
I'm not sure about the number, Marty, but yeah.
Well, I was including Olson, I left you off.
Okay.
So congratulations,
Thank you
Phyllis.
very much.
Okay, public comments. We're going to start there, which is a little unusual. Do we got a lot of hands going up. Okay, why don't we start here? Please state your name and purpose.
Mind if I lean on this? I don't, I have
That's
to
fine.
speak from notes and I don't have a teleprompter like
No,
President Obama.
no, I don't have my timer, so when I say it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I might have 6 minutes. It's
And to
been a
move
long
this
time
meeting
since I
along.
spoke in front of the board, so I kind of saved it up. And hope you can put up with my Brooklyn accent for 6 minutes or so. But first I wanted to thank the board for exercising their common sense by rejecting the proposed 99-year lease for the property in the Bayside. Most of the board's discussions regarding that lease was done in, and the associated appraisals and surveys and so on, was done in closed session. And that information was not made available to the public, to my knowledge. So I'm relying on some media information like that, but I think nonetheless what I have to say is going to be relevant. Apparently Secrets may have inadvertently or otherwise infringed on our property. A number of times in the past, our manager, members of the board have pointed out the great compatible relationship that we have with Secrets. But let's not get carried away with that. Forget that it is a business relationship. And as such, from a practical, from a legal, and from a moral point of view, the infringement, if it exists, should be acknowledged and it should be referred to in the lease. Now, for tax purposes, I understand that the parking lot property has been appraised for $2.5 million. The real estate taxes on that property is $20,713 approximately. I'm going to give Phyllis these notes so that you'll see how I got to that. But it's $20,713. So if I take And also according to the media, the lease was for approximately $35,000. If I take $35,000, I'm going to add to that $20,713 for the taxes, and I'll estimate maybe another $2,000 for insurance. The approximate total benefit to Ocean Pines is about $57,713. And $57,713 equates to a 2.3 return on $2.5 million. Now, in my opinion, that's a very important return on our investment, and it's an extremely good deal for Secrets. I'm asking the board to look into that and also to look into the aforementioned infringement. Maybe 2.3% is a high expectation for me. I don't know. Maybe the board considers that satisfactory. Maybe the board just didn't look into that aspect of it. I don't know. I know that neither our general manager or any member of the current board was a party to the original leases or past leases, which probably were set a precedent for this lease. So I think that's something that should be looked into. And I think that this board has had the foresight to have 10-year plans, comprehensive plans, so future boards can look into that. So I think so too. You can make a recommendation. You can probably do that via a. You probably make a recommendation to a future board as to what we might do on a future lease if the one that we already have is put to bed. I assume it has been. On another subject, Bill Rakow, in his president's report, he states that he has to put a lot of emphasis on communication. And he also states that coming to grips with what we're going to do with our country club will be a challenge. Well, I'm asking the board and suggesting to the board that you put together both of those thoughts, okay, and have a public hearing to help determine what the property owners want to do with that country club. I don't think the 10-year task force or any committee should make a determination of the evolution of that property without first getting input from the cross-section of the property owners. And I know there are going to be many diverse viewpoints, but they really all deserve a hearing before you reach a conclusion. And I'm going to get the ball started, because here are some ideas that I have. Let's maybe start the dialogue on that subject. Rather than maintain, did you?
No, just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you're okay. You have to worry about her, not me.
Don't stop me, it's difficult to do this. To start the ball going on a dialogue on this, I would like to see, rather than maintaining the same country club theme that's been maintained, I suggest a multi-purpose building. Maybe we can have some exercise equipment, billiard tables, tennis tables, along with an appropriate recreation program that goes along with that. And I've been advised that all of the activities in the country, in the community center, is going to be bumped during the summer to make room for summer camp. So we can also use additional multi-purpose rooms for meeting in a renovated country club facility. In effect, let's have an annex or an adjunct to the community center. And if you retain the Turner's Grill, I'm sure you're going to have a lot more people coming to that facility for many, many reasons, and you're going to get a lot more use out of the Turner's Grill. One last comment, I'll let you go.
Half a minute.
Okay, well, it's going to take 2 minutes. We're all aware that Ocean Downs has received their slots license. And then in a not too distant future, we're going to get some, hopefully we're going to get some, Ocean Pines is going to get some slots revenue. Well, I believe that there are opportunities for additional revenue for Ocean Pines that we should be looking into now before the slots arrive. As you know, Mr. Rickman is a very successful businessman. If you do just a little research and how he promotes and markets Delaware Park, you'll find that he packages his golf club in the restaurants, in the casino, and the racetrack. He also does this with some local facilities, and he has some standalone promotions and some combination packages. Well, Mr. Rickman doesn't have all of those facilities in Ocean Downs, but his good neighbor, Ocean Pines, has all of that. We even have more because we have swimming and tennis. Okay, so I believe we should be talking to Mr. Rickman about jointly promoting and marketing our facilities. And I can bet you that Ocean City will be doing this if they haven't already did it. And that's about it. I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
I'll give this to you for this.
Yes, please.
Well, before you go there, may I comment?
Sure.
I think you didn't give any consideration to the Bayside parking lot for our use.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, we use it in all the prime hours, all the time.
yeah, well, I know that. I know
So that's a value to the lot. I mean, he's not getting the lot 24/7. So the return isn't gonna be as great to us.
Well, no, I recognize that. In fact, I don't think all of my numbers were actually accurate either. But you know, the return, I think, is low. Now, maybe it's not. This is something that people on the board that are in the business, you know, Bob and
The only other use the property has ever had other than growing grass has been a go-kart track 25 years ago.
well, it's what it's worth is how valuable it is, really, the secrets. That's really what it
That's
is.
exactly what it's
Yeah,
worth, yes.
Okay, so maybe, that's about it.
Pete,
Thank you.
Yeah, just very quickly, you can't use the tax basis, the tax appraised amount to compute what's an appropriate return. And as Marty Clark just suggested a moment ago, we're only talking about limited use of that property, which is appraised. But for tax purposes, we, Ocean Pines, as I understand it, have not challenged the tax assessment basis because we're not paying the taxes. The bottom line is very simply that you can't use that amount to compute an appropriate return on investment, okay?
Okay, I understand did get an appraisal on that, I don't know what it
Yeah.
is. The
It's
Worcester
lower than
price,
that.
Worcester's price is 2 million, okay? If I use the same formula for 2 million, okay, then the return is 2.8%. If I take the IRS, that we're gonna have to pay interest and pay taxes on that, the return is even lower, if that's gonna come about. So there's all different ways to look at it. It just seems to me that it's low, and I don't know if the board really sat down and discussed all of that, or just looked at the past leases, which set a precedent, and say, well, let's go the same way.
I think the most significant comment was made by Marty Clark a moment ago. You're talking about a parcel of land that whatever its value is used several hours a day. That equates to something less than full value, and that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
appreciate your input.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Could he go over the numbers again? The appraisal value, I know, 2.5.
Okay,
That's a tax.
the
That's
taxes-
tax roll.
The taxes, I came out with 20,713.
That's
Okay,
a little.
if I can if you want me to break that
All
down.
the figures that you gave in the beginning. The appraisal value was 2.5 million, correct?
The appraisal was 2.5 million, the taxes is 20,713, and I estimated $2,000 for insurance.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank
35,000
you.
came from where?
Grant.
the lease.
Once you,
You-
you talk to him after the meeting, because we gotta get to a board meeting here, we got other public comments to do.
Thank you. Sir,
Bob, I'm here to talk about a specific topic.
could you state your name and...
My name is Arthur Sachs. I live at 4A Bluebill Court. I'm here to talk about a specific topic, 14C drainage project.
Yes,
Are you
sir.
going to entertain any additional public comments, or is this the only opportunity to make?
We will allow public comments at the end of the meeting.
Well, we will allow them as you discuss those specific items.
Well, only because we started it with public comments, I'll probably push through to the very end. And the reason why, if we stop each time, it's going to be a 3 or 4 hour meeting for us, to be honest with you, so.
I'd
you
like to
can-
begin a public comment then relative to
That's
the
fine, sir.
subject.
Yes, sir.
I live at 14C, and for the last 14 years, we have been trying to get the road system and the drainage system in that section of Ocean Pines improved. Now, I sit here and I listen to you very, very fine gentleman, and I think this is the best board that Ocean Pines has ever had, and by far the best general manager, discussing the issues in Ocean Pines that are concerning. And you talk about the unregistered vehicles on the properties, and you talk about the too tall grass on the properties, and you talk about the trash and debris on the properties, and you're all rightfully concerned about that. And you want to see that situation corrected, and you have no patience in getting it corrected. Well, we've been dealing with this situation for 14 years. Our streets are flooded whenever it rains and for several days afterward. In the wintertime, that flooding turns to ice, which backs up into the individual driveways and becomes very hazardous. Hazardous to the point where the waste management people have asked not to pick up waste there, and I had to get the general manager to adjudicate that issue. Now, when they're not doing that, we have water in there, we have mosquitoes breeding in those areas. The street now has been repaired for water main. A used section, 40 by 50, has been torn up and there's nothing but mud. It looks like a third world street. Now, quality of life begins in front of my house. It doesn't begin at the yacht club with a new portico. It doesn't begin with a covered roof for a pool, which is now losing money. It begins in front of my house. It begins in front of my neighbor's house. Now, you want to see how many people are concerned about that? All those who are concerned about the 14C issue, could you please raise your hands? That's how concerned we are. We're here to ask that that problem be corrected. It's an expensive correction. It's an expensive correction because nobody has addressed it. The property was taken over from the builder. I went down to see a gentleman by the name of Mr. Hudson when that occurred, and I specifically asked him if he was going to address the drainage. It was a problem. He assured me he would. That wasn't done. Ocean Pines came and paved right over what the builder had put in. The builder obviously didn't address that, or thought he had, and it didn't work that way. And this builder is not a fly-by-night builder. He's one of the finest people building in Ocean Pines and probably in Worcester County. So there's a serious problem that has to be corrected. This board here is the only body that can correct that problem. And I don't want to live here another 14 years under those conditions. And I don't want to hear about the problems you're having with people who are not taking care of their houses. Come down and see the homes there. They're well maintained. We do everything we have to do as a homeowner. Now it's time for the board to do what it has to do to correct that problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's okay if I stand here?
Sure.
Just going to break the monotony here.
Help me! Help me!
One more time. My name is Al Winling. I'm at 82 Seafair Lane, and I've been here 15 years, and this is the first time that I've come before the board. I've had many talks with Tom Olson, but I'm needing some relief and reduction as far as the assessment increases. We are at our max. 1/3 of the people in Ocean Pines live on approximately $25,000 like I do. And it's difficult, and I still owe a little money on the assessment now. But what I can't understand, and if you could verify these figures with me, that the aquatic club is $52,000 down, and the coupon sales are $9,700 down, $2,000 down in cash sales. The golf course is $50,000. Cart fees $1,700. Green fees $1,700. Tennis is down $1,700. I could go on and on. The only thing that's making money is the marina. And I've talked to Tom Olson, and I understand what he's been trying to do to try to save money, which is freezing the pay for the people that work here since May 1st, changing the pool chemicals to save $5,000, grass equipment $7,000, reducing all overtime in all departments. With this community center, I don't know if it's any way possible, but it seems to me that there is a gold mine to make money. I think you could have 47 different things there, from antiques to zoomies, and what that is a skateboard type activity, and a type of, I don't know, dances. Any way you can make money to not add to our assessment rate, because we're at our max, the people that live on fixed incomes. And I'm asking the board to consider, I'm asking for some relief and reduction, so not to be like an equity line. You can't come to us all the time. We're not a credit card to bail you out. So some thought has to go into reducing some of these activities. You wouldn't want to close the yacht club. Maybe you have to just leave it open a couple days where it's making money. Same thing with the golf course. When it's the max number of people there, so you don't have the overhead. If I had a business, I would have to close it. You know, it's just one of those things. So, like I say, it's been here 15 years. I like it here. I don't want to move. Even if I sold the house, I'd probably have to sell it for 50% less than I paid for it, but guess what? I'd still make money. I'd still make money on it. I don't want to do that. So for us seniors, if you can consider in the future to try to use every conceivable method so as you don't raise the assessment fee for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Doug Lower. I own 20 houses here in the Pines. I'm here to address the administration of the pools within the Pines area. State of Maryland apparently has several levels of pools, from private to semi-private to recreational to public pools. The state says that we have all public pools in the Pines, which is the highest standard of care. That's a copy that I got from Mr. Olson last year. When I met with Mr. Nelson over at the pool about the concrete matter a year ago, Mr. Nelson said that I had expressed concerns to him about the people operating the pool. I hold a wastewater and waterworks license, and I know how critical the chlorination and the other items are. And he indicated that I didn't have to worry about that because he was within 15 minutes of any of the pools, and that was all that was required. In doing some research, I found out that the criteria he was using for 15 minutes only applies to semi-public pools and limited public use pools. The recreational pools and public pools, you have to have, says an owner shall ensure that a certified pool and spa operator be there. Now, I'm not real sure whether the lifeguards are the ones that are certified pool operators. Mr. Nelson said they were. However, I went by the pools, well, the one pool at the sports core last May, end of May, beginning of June. And I was there in the morning just after it opened. There were 6 children under the age of 10 with no supervision and one lifeguard out in the pool area. I came into the front area and I asked the gentleman at the front desk if I could see the testing that had been done on the pools that's required by the state. And he gave me a notebook, and I opened up the notebook, and in a 3-day period, there had been 2 tests taken. According to the state of Maryland, at least according to their records here, it says that you're supposed to have a recording a half hour before the pool opens and one every 2 hours thereafter. And there was 2 in 3 days that were recorded. And there are 9 items that have to be checked every 2 hours. Most of them were not even on that sheet. The gentleman in the front asked that I speak to the young lady that was a lifeguard, and she had just gone into the bathroom at the time. I waited 17 minutes for her to come out. She never came out. So I finally gave up and left. I'm also concerned that we had 6 kids in the pool and no supervision for at least a 17-minute period. As far as the operational things, I'll leave these documents here. You can look up the rest of the stuff in Comar. But what I'm concerned about is that if somebody gets hurt or drowns or gets sick and we haven't done the proper testing in the pool, Ocean Pines Association is going to get sued. And I don't believe that our insurance company is going to cover us if we haven't done what is required by state law. Which means that if somebody gets a multi-million-dollar judgment, you're going to divide that by 8,500, and that's what everybody in here is going to have to pay. And that concerns me. I would think that we should be running our pools in accordance with state requirements. Now, I asked Mr. Olson a year ago to give me the name of the insurance carrier, and so I could check with them about this, and I got no response, so I was unable to check with the insurance carrier. But I'm concerned about the pools not being administered properly, and if we need another lifeguard on so that the pool can be properly covered, I think we should look into putting somebody else on so that the lifeguards that are there can take a break.
Thank you, Doug.
Any other public comments? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Mr. Wyman. I live in Ivory Lane, Ocean Pines. I've been here for about 8 years. And I'm talking about the reducing of the assessments, possibly. Now, 20 years ago...
Sorry, can you repeat your name?
Repeat what?
Your name, sir.
Bob Wyman, 2 Ivory Lane.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, 20 years ago, this was a completely different community. As it is today, you can see the progress in technology. The whole world has changed. 20, 30 years ago in Las Vegas, 30 years ago, it was completely different. Howard Hughes was not in there or just started to get in there. The casinos are run under a different agenda. And there's an article that was printed in the paper, one of these papers the other day, about Las Vegas and Ocean City advertising and so on. Now, what they did was, in Las Vegas 30 years ago, in all large casinos and things of this nature, you were comped. You were taken care of because the gambling paid for everything. When Howard Hughes taken over, the corporations have taken over. Every place has to carry its own weight. The restaurants have to carry its own weight. The amusements have to carry its own weight. There's no free comps anymore, supposedly. Now, up to this time, 20 years ago, there was no restaurant in the immediate area. We had the yacht club. Now we have numerous restaurants. Many of them are just on the borderline right now. We had 1 or 2 golf courses in this area. Now there's numerous golf courses. So there's no way that we can carry our own weight by us have to pay the additional payments in it. So if a person wants to do it, it should be privately owned in this area to carry its own weight. We shouldn't take this burden on anymore because times have changed. Now, that's my point of view, and I just wanted to be a thought of carrying your own weight. Number two, this community hall that was just opened up. Now, this is something that maybe is being taken care of, but my wife was doing exercise today, loves it and everything else, and it's quite packed. They had some kind of affair the evening before in the courtroom, in the court. I was not over there, she's told me in the court. Everything was laying on the floor, nothing was cleaned up. They were quite annoyed, they had to clean this up in the morning. So that's not being prepared. Number two, if people are coming onto this court, onto this hardwood floor, with hard shoes and everything else, what's going to be a year down the line? It's going to be destroyed. Something has to be done about that. Most courts, if you go to basketball and things like that, you have to wear sneakers. People are coming in, if they run these affairs and whatever it is going on, they're coming in with the food, they're dropping food and everything else, and over a period of time, that's going to be maintenance there. So that should be addressed. And that's something new, maybe it is. And the next thing I noticed with the swimming, we're talking about the pools, and you're talking about the, this fellow did leave, about the lifeguard not being there, or certain personnel not being there. Well, to cover insurance, we should have cameras. They don't have to be out there, but they're on video. If we have to go back for insurance purposes, there's complaints. There's no cameras. If something happens, initially somebody got hurt off the diving board at one time, do you have a record of it? No, it's just hearsay. But you should have some kind of cameras going on there. It keeps everybody vigilant. And let's see what else I have here. No, it's, no, that's all I want to address about carrying your own weight, the floor in the community hall, and the video.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Hula Goldstein dog guy. You know, I'm pretty criticized over here. We bought all these new scooters for the golf course, $300,000. Now, once in a while, our manager comes up, we need $300,000 to fix the bridges. There's a sneaky here. How can we spend money? It's like this guy I'd say and the guy before. We're wasting our money. I'm speaking here for the people who voted for me. We're wasting too much money on the yacht club and the golf course. I keep telling you people that. Now, if you're gonna raise my dues, I know you're going. And I want to tell you something, on the South building. They're cutting the people back from the top till the bottom. Here, they keep cutting the management, cut the people back on the bottom. The guy makes $7 an hour. And then he came, the last meeting, look, I'm saving $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on these poor people who work for them at a lousy salary. If you raise my due, I want the management to be cut back too. Some of you people are brainwashed by the management. Let me tell you that some again. The guy mentioned the money we lose on the swimming pool. What did our management? They put a sign up. Ask people from Westchester County to use a pool. We are a close community. Anything what is in that community is for the people of Ocean Pine. He's supposed to never have built it. The second, we all go this month in court with that contractor. Who had the biggest amount to get that $6 million up? Our general manager. He was telling us all the money he was going to get for the property. He is only here to cover his back. He's not telling the truth. This has to stop here. And this, the man was here the first week. He was hired. He wanted $2,000 out of people. That's the only thing he's shooting for. He cannot run Ocean Pine. He got not the ability to do it. We have to stop this man. We cannot afford it. We're not millionaires. I live on Social Security and a little government pension. I cannot give all my money on Ocean Pine. I like to enjoy my life. If the man cannot run Ocean Pine with the money he came here, $300 for each person, he's supposed to go. He cannot handle Ocean Pine. We have to stop wasting our money. You're all sitting here. You 7 people are elected by the people from Ocean Pine. You're supposed to protect us people, not the management. and Ocean Pine. We cannot go on like this. What did we get for the $700? I'm sorry to talk to you, Tom.
Yeah, you're all right.
What, tell me what we getting out the $700. Nothing. Not a damn thing. And the man is here to suck it to us. We had one board member, he was running. The only thing he talked is to increase the money. He never said one word about stop the waste. We haven't gonna stop the waste. There's no money. The economy is dead. And I tell you, if you raise my dues, I want you to cut the manager too. Not just the man on the dam at bottom. It has to stop, people. Enough is enough here on Ocean Pine.
Thank you, Dutch.
Yes, sir.
No, I just want to, for the record, I just want to comment on one thing, because I've heard everything else he said, but for the record, the golf cart expenditures, we're going to get more in revenue this year from cart rental fees than the entire cost of the 65 golf carts. That's a fact.
Are there any other,
Sure.
are there any other public comments?
I'd like to say something.
Yes, Brian.
I'm Brian Roberts. I'm the Budget and Finance Chairperson, if you guys don't know.
Where do you live, Brian?
38 Burr Hill Drive.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, congratulate management on the actual yacht club numbers. They were actually up $39,000 above budget for as of August 2009. I don't know what the September figures look like, but that was in regards to that. They actually year-to-date actuals for the revenues were actually down 37,000. So they were able to. That's almost a 60,000 swing. So I think that was some improvement. I think everybody needs to realize that things are getting better. Management is looking out, and us as the Budget and Finance Committee look at these types of things on a monthly basis to kind of see where things are going.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Carol Mills. I live on Fountain Bridge Road, and I'd like to comment that the past couple days there were 3 lifeguards over there in the afternoon for about 5 people at the pool in response to the gentleman who was complaining about the guard coverage. So that's not the norm. I go over there too much.
And you normally have enough, is what you're saying?
Yes, more than
Thank you
enough.
for that.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
I'd like to follow up on what Mr. Sachs said regarding the flooding.
Your name and line.
Name is Jim Ludden. I'm at 4B Bluebill. And some of the houses have been for sale for months, and I guess some for probably years. And one of the reasons would be not only, of course, the economy, but people will have the open house signs and so forth, but the driveway is flooded. And the people will come by, they take one look at the flooded driveway and they disappear. As long as this continues, they're not going to sell their houses. I'm sure some of them have been for sale for over 2 years. But every time there's a heavy rain, the driveways are flooded and they stay that way for 2 or 3 days. So if it rains on a Friday up until Monday or Tuesday, the driveways are flooded. When people have an open house or they're coming around looking at the house or to get out, pick up that brochure, they're standing in water. We're never going to be able to move our property unless we get what Mr. Sachs has asked for, and that's to just fix the roads the way they should have been fixed 14 years ago.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'd like to ask you a question, well, how would it be fixed?
Actually, say it again, Pete. What was that?
Limits on the number of questions we can ask?
Yeah, we're actually, if we can hold it, and again, I think it's a good question. We're actually going to discuss some of that project.
On the agenda.
On the agenda. It's on the agenda for you folks, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Any other, yes, sir.
In regard to the yacht club,
Joe, state your name and where you.
Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. In regard to the yacht club, we have a long history in Ocean Pines of counting our chickens that never hatch. The budget you talked about, I believe, my memory is correct, is somewhere the expected loss in the budget is about $90,000. So we're talking about an improvement on an expected loss. But if you look at, if history is any indicator, these projections that come out 6 months in advance, even as little as 2 months in advance, and I've seen this happen time and again, turnarounds will change in 2 months, we've got a number that increases losses by $40,000. So I think I don't think it's time to go congratulating anybody yet on what's going on financially at the yacht club. In terms of service, food, or anything else, I can't comment. I think it's way too early to talk about any congratulations on money. And I'm disappointed to hear the Budget and Finance Committee Chairman congratulating management on finances at this point in the fiscal year. Going on to another subject. Mr. Katz, as an association member, I want to thank you for coming here tonight and getting what I thought were some very thoughtful ideas. I was disappointed in that the board of directors, if they had to say anything, perhaps Mr. Duffy's "thank you next" would have been more appropriate than what I saw as somehow trying to diminish what you had to say and suggest that your ideas were perhaps not well thought out or whatever. I think you got up with some pretty thoughtful ideas. Perhaps not every exact item you said may not have been correct, I don't know. But I think this board needs to look, when association members talk, they need to look beyond ways to stick them with some little detail and look at the overall picture of what the association member is trying to bring forward. Now, I don't have the financial background that Mr. Gumsack has by any stretch of the imagination. But when I hear that the value of the property is based upon our use or whatever it was, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, well, gee, if I wasn't living and using my house, would my house be worth a lot less than it is if I were living in it and using it? I guess the point is, we need a board who can look out for our interests in the big items. And so often we get tied up in these minutia things that take on so much importance that it becomes ridiculous. I'll give you a little example. I've watched boards over time here for over 20 years. That property over there at the beach club, we had a dock over there at one time. Well, a storm came through and knocked it down. I don't know, maybe 15, 18 years ago, maybe more. Some board, some management decided not to rebuild it. What is the most valuable thing you can have with regard to waterfront property? Riparian rights. The rights for waterfront access. Now there appears to be some question that since we left the thing down, it's been knocked down for so long, whether or not we could rebuild a dock over there if we wanted to, whether or not we could build a walkway that went across the marshland is there for access to the beach club. Nobody's even thinking about these kinds of issues. These are important issues for maintaining the value of our properties. So anyway, Mr. Katz, thank you very much for your comments.
You're welcome.
I have to.
Go ahead.
Joe, I'm sure you could rent your house for $18,000 a year. Is the value diminished any if you only rent it for dinner? Is the value diminished any if you only rent it to somebody with a green Volkswagen on Wednesdays?
Marty, since you brought it up, I'm going to reply to that. You asked me a question.
I don't like what happens in Ocean Pines where somebody says something that is so ridiculous and you pump it up like it's fact, and then everybody chases it down the highway. Okay?
I'll tell you what I'm tired
The
of.
property is not...
Gentlemen, for the essence of time, I know we did, but I got it, but in fairness to everyone else, and not cutting you off.
I haven't gone 5 minutes.
I understand, but the discourse back and forth isn't, I think your point was well taken, and I appreciate that.
Although not factual.
Although not factual.
Although not factual.
No, all right, what I'm
here
here
to laugh about it, but here's my fundamental point within my 5 minutes that Mr. Katz brought up, and I appreciate him bringing it up. He is concerned about the association. He is concerned about maximizing our income, about protecting our property rights. This board is laughing, but I'll tell you what, he is concerned. I'm getting the impression from a number of board members that we're more concerned about Leighton Moore than we are about association members, and I'm quite tired of hearing that.
I'm quite tired of hearing you say that because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Thanks for your input.
But thank you for contributing to me the comments that were made by Marty Clark. Thank you.
Contributing to you.
All right, are there
That's what you
any
said.
other? Bill, welcome, sir.
Sorry I'm late.
Yes, well, welcome.
Your timing.
Any other public comments before we move to the next section? Okay, at this point, seeing as the president of the board has shown up, and we're past the public comments and we're up to the discussion of the topics, I would respectfully turn the board meeting back over to you, sir.
All right.
Let the record show that Bob handled the tough part of the meeting.
Now we could have handled them now or at the end.
And you have to give him the flak vest?
I'm allowing him to take the...
I'm sorry I'm late, but it was unavoidable.
All these people here really think about Bluebill.
Bluebill Court?
Bluebill Court has a number of people here.
Sure, of course.
They showed their hands.
Is that on this, you mean?
It's on the agenda.
Contract.
It's on the agenda.
14C drainage, Bill.
Right, 14C drainage, okay. Then with that objection, we will move 14C drainage up to next on the list. All right.
May I, real quick?
Yeah.
I'm looking at okay. I'm wondering if it should follow the general manager's report, since the general manager addresses it in his report.
How would that work best for you?
Does it make a difference, Don?
I don't care. I'm certainly
Okay.
happy to do it outside of the manager's report.
Okay, because we don't want to keep people waiting around.
No, no, okay, well,
That's the purpose of having the public comment.
Great question.
Okay. Okay, as we've discussed several times during the last few months, we retained the services of Soulé Engineering to develop and design a plan for drainage improvements at the Bluebill Court area. We put that project out to bid last month. The bids have come back. There was a three qualified bidders: American Paving, Beecham Construction, and George and Lynch Incorporated. The low bid was George and Lynch Incorporated at $243,500. We had budgeted about $192,000 for the project, so clearly we're substantially over the budgeted amount. And what I wrestled with between the time that the bids came in and now was, well, what do we do? Do we say that the project, reject the bids and put it back out to bid? And the first question is, if I did that, would I be able to bring in more competitive prices that would bring it down lower? And after discussing that option with the engineer, he didn't think that it was. It's a difficult drainage project. When the original area was developed, it was developed with a poor drainage system, and that's the reason why we're dealing with it as we are right now. So my thought is that if we tried to rebid it, it's unlikely we'd get lower bids. And if we just rejected the bids and didn't do anything at all, then I expect that the project, the problem doesn't go away, and as time goes on, the problem gets worse. And we will continue to revisit it indefinitely until we actually correct it. So my recommendation would be to award it to the low bidder, which was George and Lynch Incorporated at $243,500. Comment?
Tom, how many homes were impacted? I know a number of the residents are here, but how many in total are impacted by this problem?
It's Bluebill and Canvasback. I didn't count up the homes. I would estimate there's probably 50 maybe.
50?
I'm not sure.
Probably about 20.
20?
At least 20.
On Bluebill Court alone.
On Bluebill Court alone. But it runs back.
Plus you've got the other, I've toured it, I mean, yeah.
If you do this project, you will probably impact somewhere around 100 homes.
Is that about right?
Yeah, I'd have to go count them. I wouldn't want to.
I'm aware of the problem, but I have not actually been there when it's been really bad, so I really don't.
I've been there too when there's water, but not when heavy.
Hey, Tom, what was, the question I have, what was the work, I mean, I've been over there, I've looked at and I know it's, I mean, my in-laws live across the bay, so I'm familiar, across the waterway there. the work that they were going to do, my understanding, we have to redo the drains, expand some piping, in addition to the repaving to get the slope, right? Is that correct? Does that encompass all of the?
Paving portion, part of that cover letter from Soleil and Associates is a little misleading because it talks about secondary road rehabilitation.
Okay, that's what.
The paving is secondary to everything. I mean, it's kind of like, it's like building a house. You know, if you don't put the foundation, you can't build a house without putting down the foundation, and the problem lies in the foundation.
Right.
The bottom line is that water has to take a path of resistance, and you've got to get that water from the problem areas to the low area to drain into the lowest point, which is obviously the bay or the canal in this case.
We budgeted 197,000? 192. How do we know it's going to work?
Well,
we had one engineer's plan that was presented to us.
That's exactly, yeah, I mean, we retained the engineer to design a plan to make it work.
And that's Soleil.
Right.
Okay. And then all of these 3 bids are encompassing everything that the engineer recommends, in addition to the repaving.
What are we going to do for, let's see, 243, right?
That's the low, 243.5.
51,000. What are we going to do to reduce the budget?
There's no, I mean, this would come out of reserves funds. There's no magic bullet. We just have to draw it down on the reserves fund.
We had budgeted within the fiscal year, the bridges and this, and we were going to go into deficit in that reserve account to be made up over future years with the implementation of the long-range funding increase. So we were already going to go into deficit. So the monies weren't there within the fiscal year, within the budgeted reserve amount, so we had to go into deficit for this and the bridges.
Well, we're not going to spend $800,000 on the bridges.
No, we're not, no.
So we're saving money on the bridges, as I understand it.
Right.
Any further discussion?
No?
All right. Tom, anything else? You recommend doing it, huh?
I would recommend doing it because I just don't see it going away, quite frankly. I mean, it's not, I would love to get a better price.
What are we going to do if we do it, and then for the rest of the time we're here, Art doesn't come up and talk to us anymore?
We'll have to find something.
We'll have to find another subject, Bill. Don't worry, I won't run out of topics.
I'm going to call a question.
I don't have a motion.
Motion.
There's no motion.
I move that we accept the low
Is
bid.
there a motion to approve our general manager's recommendation of
So moved.
$242,000? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well done.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I hope it works.
We do too.
It better.
Thank you.
How many years? 14 years, did you say?
14.
I've been at it 14, but the gentleman back there, Mr. Taylor, has preceded me with this issue.
Yes.
And he's getting old, so one of us has to step in.
All right.
Here we are spending money. Imagine that.
All right, we're going to turn to the regular agenda. Item 1, FY 2011 budget guidance discussion. It'll be led by our
Thank you,
treasurer.
gentlemen. Wise to say.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I thought all these cars outside all were in this room.
They came to watch me start the meeting.
They all have blue bills.
Now that you're here.
Bob, thank you. Sorry I voted.
No, that was quite all right.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before you, I'm going to speak to that, and then you can say if that's okay.
Did everybody have a copy of this?
No, I just, last minute thing, as you know. The agenda includes budget guidance. A year ago, for the first time, I believe, as part of the budget process, there was input from the board through representatives at the outset of the budget process. And I, at the time, served on the Budget and Finance Committee. Brian Roberts did then chair that committee and still does. And I think we received a lot of positive feedback for the process, the way it was conducted last year. The budget guidance at the front end of the process seemed to make a lot more sense than the board getting involved after the general manager and his staff spent 2 months of putting a budget together, and then for the first time exposing it to the committee and then to the board without having had an opportunity for any input prior to that. So that process was changed last year, and it was the first go-round at it, and I believe it was not a total board effort last year. It was the then chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, Brian Roberts. It was myself as a member of that committee who was heavily involved in the budget process. Bill Rako was the then treasurer, and Dave Stevens, who was the then board president, met with the general manager, Tom Olson, and also Art Carmine, the controller. And we then, as a result of that process, put forward several things on the front end having to do with overall dimensions of the budget, and I think it was well received. So here we are again this year, although in a little different format than we experienced last year. It's actually been added to a board agenda. It was a little awkward last year because we hadn't been through it before, and but it was a good give and take, and we resolved some things on the front end, and Tom, I think you felt it was beneficial to do that. So here we are now. I met with Tom earlier today. I've been out of town for the last 8 days, and so the first opportunity I had to share some thoughts and get his thinking was today. And subsequently, I spent some time on the phone with Bill Rako and also with Brian Roberts. So what I have put together is some points, and there aren't many. We're not here to do the budget. We're not here to set assessment rates. We're not here to talk about specific areas of cost, but rather some overall guidance that we might offer as we did last year. Some of it, so I'm going to pass this out with your permission. Okay. Apologies on the front end. This was done today in light of the circumstances. My typist was really under the gun here at 10 after 6 this evening. I asked her to type this up, and she did. I then subsequently made the changes that you see here. Trying to set the stage for the budget process is all we're really trying to do, and emphasize some of the things that I believe we've emphasized throughout the course of the year, as well as during last year's budget process. As has been pointed out and continues to be pointed out, these are some difficult times, economically speaking, for businesses, for individuals, retirees, non-retirees, and we are mindful of that. And so any guidance, I think, has to acknowledge the environment in which we're operating. At the same time, under the overview paragraph there, it is also well known and documented, and unfortunately continues to be further documented as we move ahead, of the deteriorating nature of some of our major physical assets in this community. And so we have a bit of a conflict. We have those who, as earlier this evening, plead for no dues increases, and yet at the same time we have major expenditures looming, in part because of, I'd say, my opinion, but it's shared by many people, not a reluctance, but let's say a lack of proper investment in years past. Consequently, we have found out things during the activities of the 10-year plan task force that the state of the physical assets, some of these major physical assets, is worse than we originally imagined. And certainly the board is well aware of the fact that not even on the radar screen once upon a time, a couple of months ago, was the Swim and Racket Club, and now that is very much on the radar screen, and with major expenditures required to fix it. At the same time, we still have the needs of the yacht club. We did defer a project that I think the board, before Bob Thompson and I joined it, were ready to embark upon some expenditures for the yacht club, but that got canceled because of the awareness that there was more to come. And why spend money when it may be resulting in wasteful spending when you look at it in the broader context of what was really needed at the yacht club, which was not known a year ago or perhaps even 9 months ago. So we have this conflict, in a sense, of we need to spend money in the association's budget. We need budget money to be spent, and at the same time we have people pleading for no dues increase. So what I have set forth here is, I think under Dave Stevens' presidency last year, for the first time I am told, I haven't been around as long as some of those of you in the room and some of the other directors perhaps, but I am told that for the first time ever a plan was put forward that looked out 5 years. in a significant way. And I think certainly I was part of that and proud to have been part of that. And I said that even before I was elected to the board. So one of the things that I would offer that this board embrace is and I use that word advisedly, it was embraced by the board last year, this 5-year planning mechanism. And one of the goals of that was to integrate the expected capital expenditure needs with a funding plan over a 5-year period. The other objective was to result in assessment increases that were predictable. One of the complaints is not just about dues itself, it's about surprises, and sometimes we would go, I've looked back 20 years of history here in Ocean Pines with dues increases, and it's somewhat remarkable in a sense that you'll see years and years with no increases and then a spike, and then down, and it's, so I know Dave Stevens had spoken to this, and I'm sorry he's not here, but one of his goals, I know last year, was to establish a certain level of predictability into the finance. And Brian, you know this from having had this discussed at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. So that 5-year plan, while it was embraced by the board actually only, as we all know, approved a budget for 1 fiscal year. And that's what we're about to embark upon this year too, is that we will approve a budget for a single fiscal year with all of the revenues and all the expenditures associated with that year. But I would encourage that this board, as part of its budget guidance given to the general manager at this junction, embrace that 5-year plan that we put together last year. Now, there's lots of room within that, costs, revenues and costs, and particularly on the operating side. I think the primary needs that we addressed in that plan, and which we're addressing through the 10-year plan task force, are reserve account, physical assets, capital expenditures. We're not talking about payroll costs and computer software and fringe benefits, and those are all operating costs. Parks and recs and aquatics and golf and food and beverage, that's all on the operating side. What I'm really addressing here is the part of the budget that embraces the capital cost needs. But so up top in that 5-year projection last year, it was the top part of it was operating, and we had no basis for predicting, and we did not try to predict, neither Tom nor myself, what the next 5 years of operating costs and revenues would be. So we assumed a 2%, and that's that. But that needs work. So what I'm asking simply is what we approve as planning guidance is the embracing of that plan. We also, at Bill Rako's first meeting after having been elected president, we talked about goals for this year. And that's why in the guidance I felt it important to add an item about quality of services. We can talk about cost cutting, but I hope that we focus in the budget process on trying to improve our services to members. I think we've all acknowledged during the course of our discussions about our goals for this year the need to do that. And I hope that we don't want to just cut costs to cut costs. I think we need to be thinking about the consequences of any cost cutting that we do and ask the question, is this really in the best interest of the members? So that's why I have the language here that I have, that it should emphasize quality services to the membership and to maximize the reduction of unnecessary expenditures and utilize improved staff productivity. So. And then amenity results. We've had an awful lot of discussion about amenities, and I think one of the points that was raised, in fact, it was a last-minute adjustment made by the initiative of the board last year, was to, on the dues line, the operating side of it, was to be more realistic in the budget itself. Tom, you'll remember that.
Absolutely.
And what that meant was, don't just give us a budget that results in a certain dues that's more saleable than some other dues level and then fall flat on our face because we had too rosy a projection in there. Let's be realistic, right? And I mean, that's how we accumulated $500,000 of operating fund deficits over a 3-year period, which we're now in this 5-year plan having to deal with. So one of the points of guidance here is simply to say, amenity financial results should be budgeted on a realistic basis, recognizing the challenging economic environment. So don't produce a budget that has a 20% increase in wedding receptions when everything around you tells you that it's not going to happen. The budget should emphasize increased utilization and revenues. I think many of us who've been involved in some of these activities going forward recognize that yeah, you can cut costs, but maybe a better way to improve the overall financial picture is to increase revenues. What a concept, increase revenues. And I think efforts are being made, and I think more recently, the example of this board having approved at its last meeting the part-time golf marketing position is clear evidence of that. That's an additional cost that was approved, despite the fact that some people want to cut costs. Here's one where I think good judgment said, let's spend a little money, and we'll more than make up for that expenditure in the way of increased revenue. And so part of, I think, the budget guidance, and it specifically relates to the yacht club and to the golf, is and I know efforts are underway, but I think the budget ought to continue to reflect that further commitment, if you will, to increasing the revenue sources to improve the bottom line. Costs should be reviewed at all levels to ensure that only necessary costs are budgeted. I know Bill Rako has on various occasions, since he has assumed the presidency of this organization, emphasized that and turned down maybe some modest requests. Might seem modest, but Bill has taken the position, and I think rightfully so, that if it's not necessary, if it's just a nice thing to have, then let's postpone it. If it's necessary and can be justified, let's do it. But if it's just nice, let's not do it. So I think the budget ought to reflect that. And I think that reflects the sense that I've received not only from Bill, but from the rest of the board as well. A critical item is the staff compensation. Last year, part of the guidance we gave as a group was to authorize the general manager to build into the budget a maximum of 3% salary increases in the aggregate, and to move away from historically Ocean Pines 3% across the board increases. So the board gave the general manager the authority, didn't mandate that he have 3% increases, but he gave him the authority to go up to 3%, but not in excess of 3% of salaries. And that translates into about 120 grand a year, by the way. It's about $4 million, something like that, Art, right? About $4 million in round numbers, in round numbers of salaries, times 3%, is $120,000 or $15 per property owner. The general manager chose, as I think we're all aware, and I'm saying that with cognizant of the fact that people in the audience may not be, the general manager put a freeze on. Even though the board authorized within this fiscal year up to a 3% increase, the general manager froze salaries. If we were to take the same position in offering the guidance this year to the general manager, there would be 2 straight years of no increases for our staff. And I, for one, am not thinking that's a good idea. I think what we need to do is to differentiate performance and to build into the budget an aggregate of 3% increase, not across the board, but based on merit. Those of us in the room, or everybody in the room at one time or another, has faced the difficult question of personnel, and differentiation of performance and differentiation in compensation is a very difficult thing. But I think it needs to be done, and that's how you motivate people in part. So I am suggesting that as our board guidance, we not suggest, as some might, no one has to me, but I'm sure that some are thinking, let's put another year of wage freeze on, and I, for one, don't think this board ought to do that. So I'm recommending that we embrace the concept of up to 3% to recognize the performance of those individuals who are deserving of it. So 6% for you and 0% for you. So I'm almost finished. 2 other specific items besides costs, staff compensation, are fire department costs, something near and dear to the Budget and Finance Committee's heart, because we strongly recommended, and some of the members on that committee have been doing this for a number of years before I joined the committee, and that is adopt a new policy, and one which I was familiar with from prior experience in Ohio, of having the volunteer fire department bill for EMS services to insurance carriers, including Medicare. And lo and behold, this past year, the fire department did indeed change their long-standing position of not doing that, not thinking that was a wise thing to do. So I applaud them for having done that. We were the last fire department in the area to have done it, as I understand it. But unfortunately, that did not result in any savings to Ocean Pines. And I think this board ought to, and I know the committee feels very strong, the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee feels very strongly about that we ought to run that through to its conclusion and see how we can translate that new policy into a savings for Ocean Pines. just as a reminder, we have built into our 660,000, I think it is, cost 660. I have numbers in my head, but 660 that we have as a fire expense in our budget includes $15.50 specifically designated for EMS runs. So every property owner in Ocean Pines is now paying a dedicated $15.50 as part of our overall amount that we fund the volunteer fire department with for EMS runs. Well, those EMS runs are now being billed to our insurance carriers and our Medicare. So we, the citizens, the residents, are really paying twice, if you will. We're paying the $15.50 that was developed some time ago, and we're also paying our insurance premiums, health insurance premiums, and our Medicare. So anyway, I am simply saying, without being too specific about dollars, percentages, or anything else, suggesting here we have as budget guidance that in view of this year's, and again, apologies for the changes, I just got to it too late. In view of this year's new volunteer fire department policy of billing insurance providers, including Medicare for EMS runs, and the probable significant additional revenues, reduce Ocean Pines' cost for fire services. And I recognized, and I said that to Tom today, that's more than a general manager issue. That's got to be a board issue and a president of the board issue working together to try and accomplish that, because it has to do with the fundamental agreement that we have in place between Ocean Pines Association and the Volunteer Fire Department. So hopefully we can work together to achieve some economies and some cost savings to Ocean Pines in light of this. It's too early to tell what exactly the revenue is going to be. They've only just recently begun the implementation of this policy. My prior experience, and based on per runs and the number of runs, suggested it's a sizable amount. But I don't think they're sharing any numbers at this point, if they even have any numbers. They probably don't even have any numbers, although, as you've heard me say before, I believe before they made that decision, they had a pretty good idea, because they're dealing with a company that does this for many, many fire departments across the country. They have some idea of what you can expect to get in revenue. And lastly, as a specific item, again, we've talked about it, the road resurfacing costs. We have been cut significantly in this year's budget year by the Worcester County pass-through of road resurfacing funds. We're losing almost $500,000 within this year, and the decision has been embraced by this board. I think we formally acted on that at the last meeting. Could be wrong, but those funds are dedicated to internally to pay for road resurfacing, and so the general manager's recommendation and also the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation was to have the impact of that shortfall this year result in less road resurfacing, not in some other category. One of the benefits of that, if there is a benefit to losing revenue, is that we don't have employees. That expenditure is really through outside contracting services. So it's not as though we were getting the money and paying our employees to do this, and now we got to lay them off. It was simply a question, we're not going to hire the outside contracting services that we had previously hired to do the roads resurfacing. But this year's moratorium is only a one-year moratorium. However, we fully expect, I think, Tom, that this situation will continue into next fiscal year as well, and we'll be faced with the same dilemma next year. What I am putting forward here is guidance, and I think, Tom, this is consistent with your thinking as you and I talked about it today, was to have a second year of moratorium, if you will, suspension of road resurfacing. I don't want to go beyond that at this point, and I don't think you do either. I think beyond that, we need to get into a whole different scenario, what happens in 2012 and 13 and so forth. But can we go 2 straight years without it? I think Ocean Parkway was going to be the principal source of those expenditures, both this fiscal year and next. And so the absence of those funds means curtailment of that road surfacing activity, which primarily involves Ocean Parkway. So again, a specific item is road resurfacing costs, and suggesting as part of the guidance that we support the shortfall in that revenue if it does occur, which we expect it to in 2011. Not sure, the legislature and the governor haven't taken to that task yet, but if it does, the guidance that we're offering in the preparation of his budget is to have that impact road resurfacing, not something else. So that's really the big picture, if you will. We're not trying to set budget. We're not trying to establish assessment rates here, but simply asking to embrace, have the general manager in the preparation of his budget that will be put forward, be developed in the next 2 months and presented to the Budget and Finance Committee with its budget books, perhaps the day after, Christmas Eve it was last year we got our budget books, and the same time frame I think is called for this year. And the meetings are already scheduled between the sessions with Brian and his committee and us as a board to integrate the activities as we did last year. So this is step one. Again, there's no headline here that, assessments this or dues that or expenses here. So I'm simply asking Bill that we adopt this guidance as a board.
Okay, Marty?
Couple of questions, if I may.
Sure.
I'm confused. You're saying there's been no raises for staff in the past year?
No, since the beginning of this fiscal year, there have been no raises. They were frozen as of the beginning, day one of this fiscal year, which began May 1. Yes, sir.
We didn't take that action. That was not a board action.
It was general manager.
General managers.
When we did the budget last year, there were raises incorporated in that
Correct.
budget. Are you saying they were not given?
That's correct.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's giving us a cost savings that I...
Yes, and that's reflected, Marty, when the general manager gave his report to the board here recently. You may not have picked up on that.
Last quarter.
But he mentioned that at that meeting.
That's where some of this savings, say, at the yacht club is
Yes,
coming
Tom
from.
spoke to that when he
Okay,
gave his
okay, okay,
presentation,
okay.
yes.
Okay,
Okay?
I'm glad to see we're...
And by the way, you remember now, we have an anniversary date compensation adjustment system. It's not, I've never had that before. I've always had, everybody gets a raise as of a certain date. You have a whole process. But in our case, it's anniversary date of hire. So it's staggered throughout 12 months.
It's different than the way I've done. I've always done it when somebody deserved a raise, they got it. When they didn't,
Well,
they were kicked out the door.
And that's,
I did it the old
there is an alternative, You give them a message before you kick them out the door.
Yeah, goodbye.
All right, any other comments?
We're not here to...
Are we gonna vote on this
Well,
tonight?
no,
or
let me
we just
let
gonna
me discuss, let me
let
get
the
the
chairman,
input here,
the
let
president
me
decide how
discuss
to do it.
how I think we gotta do this.
Yeah, I have a couple of points. On the first one, I totally agree with the operating budget should emphasize quality of service. The challenge I have with that is we must define an acceptable quality of service for what we want to put the money towards. I mean, you can get quality of service up here and quality of service down here. A lot of it's in the eyes of the beholder. So to me, that's a very tough one to define. Is it 2 lifeguards on duty? Is it 4 lifeguards on duty? Is it,
You're right.
Well, yes, he is. He's absolutely right. However, we're not here to decide how many lifeguards.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, you want an operating budget that emphasizes quality of service.
I'm saying to the general manager, we as a board say...
Until we define what is an acceptable level of quality of services for our individual amenities, that's a very difficult one to put in place. On the staff compensation, I don't have any problems with the 3% or whatever percentage you want to come up with. I would assume, though, that would be broken down by staff elements. Staff element, if you have this many employees in Parks and Recs, this is the maximum 3%, this is your 3% you get. So you don't allow another staff element to use up your portion. There has to be a fair divide.
I don't even, as a board member, I don't see that as my job. I leave that up, in my opinion, to the discretion of the general manager. If he thinks Parks and Recs is deserving in toto of a 5% aggregate and some other department, because they haven't done a good job that year, should be 1%, I think that's the discretion. Do you agree with that?
I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that
All we're saying, John, is I don't care how you do it, Mr. General Manager.
Right.
But come up with a budget that is no more than 3% of the entire. You want to give 18% to this department and minus 2% to that department, that's fine.
No problem with that. On the fire department costs.
Yes.
Again, this is quick too. I'm assuming they're gonna have we know how much we give them for EMS every year.
We do.
Okay.
It's
And they
15
should know how much they get under this new system. My recommendation is we make up the difference and only the difference.
Let me speak to that, please.
Please do.
Okay. Our $660,000 that we have in this year's budget has carved out a piece of that 660, and there's a long saying, 1550 per lot.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, fine. That's about 120 grand. However, they could realize as much as, well, I don't want to be quoted because I don't have any numbers, I can't back it up. They could have significant dollars in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. They could have multiple times in revenue what the EMS portion is.
Okay. Then my recommendation is we make up no more than the difference, the shortfall.
I'm not even being that specific. I'd rather be much less specific at this juncture, because I don't know what their real budget needs are. They might be greater, lesser, I don't know. I don't want to restrict it.
Specific.
Yes.
We have a contract with them.
Yes, we do.
We pick up
Yes,
the
we do.
costs. So that's pretty much, if they gain, we gain. But if they happen to have a new mortgage this year, which they do, we pay for it.
Marty, I fully understand that this is complicated because it is based on a contract.
Yep.
It is based on a commitment that we have
I mean,
to support.
it's not like they're spending money to go to the Bahamas. They're using this stuff to protect our life and limb.
But
No,
there are
no, I
multiple
understand
funding
that, Marty,
sources,
but-
Marty. There are multiple funding sources for the fire department. We are one of them.
One of them.
Okay, now,
But we're the tail end. If the others don't cover it, we do.
Okay, but Pete, you
We
were
have said-
carving
go
out
ahead.
the only portion I was addressing
I know.
was the $15 for the EMS, which you're saying they're getting reimbursed through a system that they've incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, it would be double dipping, and we're trying to prevent, protecting our association money.
Yes.
And that's all I'm addressing
I know,
is.
I know.
That
is
would show up
portion.
in their final number, which would show up in the number we gave them.
It depends on how the budget, but yeah.
I mean, they're not taking that money and hiding it.
No, I understand.
Okay,
But they don't know what it is yet.
That's because it's probably not.
It's just begun.
yeah.
It's just begun, right?
And if it's like
But
Ocean
John,
City, they
I-
spend more on collection.
I'm trying to
than they
be less specific here as we offer guidance. Again, we're not doing the budget here. We're not deciding costs. We're not deciding, we're just offering some guidance. And all I'm suggesting is that we recognize in the process, and recognize Tom can't sit there in his office and with Art decide on what it is. It's got to be some interaction, some dialogue. And that's why I hastened to add at the outset, it's not just the general manager. There's got to be board president involvement in this dialoguing. Marty, to address your concern, absolutely, it involves the contract.
We've gotten away from unrealistic budgeting. So let's just take this smoke and mirror money that they may or may not have, and let's put it on the side of the road until they get it. Until such time.
No, they're getting it. They just don't know how much it's going to be.
Well, that remains to be
I
seen.
think Marty and I are
What
saying the
remains
same
to be
thing.
seen, if I may ask?
What they're gonna get.
Oh, okay. So
Salisbury
you're
and
not
Ocean
doubting-
City aren't getting the
Okay.
numbers that you're talking about.
I didn't say any numbers.
You said hundreds of thousands.
I said it could be hundreds.
And Mary Poppins could pop in any minute. and bring
I also said I didn't want to offer a specific number because I can't back it up.
I'll be
I said that.
surprised if it's half of that.
What do you think it'll be, Marty?
Well,
It doesn't matter.
what this guidance
Doesn't matter.
does,
All I'm
Marty,
saying is let's acknowledge it.
what this guidance does is acknowledge that they're getting a gain from a new source, and we're gonna look at it, and it's gonna be, whatever we're gonna do, it's gonna be right, whatever we're
And
gonna do.
it's got to be negotiated.
Yeah,
It's
I
gotta be
know, okay,
negotiated.
we've spent enough time on it.
All
Okay,
right.
I do have a couple questions.
please.
Planning guidance, 2011 budget should utilize a 5-year plan. I thought we had talked about, as a board, we were going to embrace, try to marry up with the task force, the 10-year plan to match up. And I think since we agreed to do that, we ought to be looking at 10-year plan as opposed to 5 here. This 5 is using last year, but our numbers are improving. What we're going, well, from the
The numbers are
standpoint of
improving?
understanding what we're
numbers are
doing.
We're saying we have a 5-year financial plan, you ought to say there ought to be a 10-year financial plan to marry up with the 10-year.
With the 10-year plan.
Well,
We
yeah,
agreed
let me-
to that at
let me
the
help.
meeting.
Let me help.
The most
well, it-
accurate we have is about 4 hours.
Yeah.
Understood, but
It was too ambitious last year to do a 10-year. We thought it was progress to make 5-year. Now, having said that.
and progress was made.
But the 10-year plan task force is utilizing the 5-year plan for the budget process as part of their efforts.
Understood.
Okay.
I
so
got all that.
There's
I'm-
integration between that.
I'm 100% on the
okay,
page with
okay,
all that.
okay.
My whole point is, we're trying to do a better, we're trying to make our efforts further out instead of the short term. I know that we have some great people working on a task force, including several of you guys here in the room, and that task force has made significant improvements to help us make better decisions. Part of that process should be marrying up. Last year, in the absence of having a fully fleshed out or almost fleshed out 10-year plan, 5-year was all that we could go out. I'm saying, based on our mission and our goals for this year, we were saying we were going to try to marry up the 10-year task force plan with the budget. That's what one of our planning guidance should be. Now, how close we can get to it,
And this is a question really for Bill and for Tom. I believe that the 10-year plan expenditure scenario will not be completed by the time this budget process is underway. They can't wait for that 10-year process.
Well, I actually, Tom, it's your task force.
What should happen. And I've got a memo in here that talks about some of the approaches that we're doing with this task force. One of the approaches is very, very detailed. It's development of bid specifications and contractor estimates and very detailed plans to try and get us the best number possible. There's no way I can get those kind of numbers for 10 years out. What I believe I can do is establish something called an RS means estimate, which is an industry standard type estimate that would say if I'm going to do a renovation of X number of square foot in this area of construction, that it should cost me $100 a square foot, $200 a square foot, $300, whatever. I can take those estimates and I can create a 10-year roadmap. The numbers will not be as good as, here's a perfect example, today's wood duct thing. We put an estimate together probably 14 months ago that said, I think it'll cost this. The bids came in and it's, oops, it costs a little more. So my point in telling you that is, RS means estimates get us on the roadmap. They take us for the road, take us on the trip. When you stop at your first destination, you may find that your number isn't everything it needs to be. It's got to be more exact than that. It's okay.
Well, and to your point, I'm sorry to interrupt, but a great example, the pool situation with the failing pillars, something came up that takes a higher priority. I think we all have discussed that. We understand things are going to take priority as new information comes. I'm just saying if we're truly going to build a plan to avoid oops or a significant increase next year, or how can we manage it so we don't have large increases this year, next year, whatever the case may be, having a clear roadmap, having a future destination makes a lot more sense than just bouncing around. And we had talked about, and I thought we had all agreed to it, but by this, we didn't agree to it. So that's all I want to clarify. We had talked, it says 5-year planning, and we had said we're going to try to do a 10-year, is what one of our goals were. We were going to try to marry up the 5-year budget. And
won't be done in the next 60 days.
Will it be done in the next 60? Anything close? I mean, I asked the question before.
The things that we used the 5-year plan last.
I think, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with the principle of what you're saying, but basically what we do here is we project out 5 years for not just the large capital items, but all kinds of capital items, right, Art? Everything. And to ask Art to project any more than that, because we're thinking about these big facilities, I think is unrealistic at this time. I think what we're going to do is Art has the schedule, the life expectancy schedule of all your regular equipment out for how many years? Probably 20 years or better, not 40. 40. So that exists. Now, I'm not going to tell you that that's in perfect condition, but he's done a lot of hard work on it, and it's reflected it. But now what I need to do is dovetail major capital projects. Here's what happens. When you set up a reserve for a building, you estimate the life expectancy of the roof, you do a life expectancy of the windows, you do the HVAC systems, and you might do 3 or 4 other components, okay? It's not a complete rehab, and it's not a complete tear down and rebuild. Those things cost a lot more than what he's reserving for. When I start talking about major facilities that we want to plan out for another 40 years, I'm doing more than replacing roofs and furnaces, okay? I need to take those numbers, I need to dovetail them into his life expectancy schedule for the different components that he has, so that I can determine in any given year how much money am I going to need. That's what you're looking for. I think we can do that. The 10-year plan in terms of taking operating budgets, marrying in capital projects, and the reserve schedule, probably more complicated. And the longer you go out, the less happy.
And guys, I have that.
And I don't think necessary, frankly, because we're going to be embracing here a 1-year budget.
Well, here's the deal. We don't think it's necessary because we haven't done it before. I don't mean to be disrespectful about it, but don't tell me something can't be done. If we focus on it, it can be. But that's what I'm saying. So we need to try to break outside of what we've done in the past. I got to tell you, though, with that being said, I think last year, from everything I can hear, everything I can see, is one of the best years we've ever had with the budget process. So you guys get credit for that. All I'm saying is now we should try to take the next step forward. That's all. Just try to make it a little bit better. If we say 5 years is enough, then we're not making improvements. We're just going, okay, 5's enough. I disagree with that.
Even though the numbers are probably more accurate over 5
I don't think it was a 5.
But I don't know what the benefit to us is.
I'm trying to marry up to the 10-year task force. That's all.
Let me
That's
give
all.
another example for you, okay? The road plan. In theory, we have a 10-year road plan. Okay? So that all the roads will be repaved within 10 years. We only cost it out for 5 years, don't we?
No, it's 10, right?
No.
We don't actually.
There's a difference between saying this road, this road, da-da-da.
Right.
And the actual cost.
Right, there's a big difference. That's what I'm saying. So even though this 10-year major facility rehabilitation plan, that's what the 10-year plan is. Even though we might say we're going to get some other place, 7 years from now.
Here's where what Bob is looking for is helpful to you folks. Let's say that in year 8, 9, and 10, you're going to take your most immediate problems right now. Okay, you know that the deck on the Swim and Racket Club pool is bad. Okay, you know that you want to do a major rehabilitation to the yacht club, and we have our sight set on these 5 years worth of projects.
And by the way, the cost of those 5 that we know today is more than what we had incorporated into that 5-year plan.
Right.
We already know that.
So if you're establishing,
we're over.
so the wonderful thing about what we did in our 5-year plan already was to say, we know we're going to assume a 2% limit on operating expenses, and we're going to assume X number of dollars needed in the next 5 years. And we're going to ask the membership for increases of this, and this. I don't want folks like that got up in the beginning of this meeting saying, my God, you hit me with this big chunk of money because you didn't realize that in year 7, 8, or 9, there was something bigger coming.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. I think
Tom,
we need
if
to
you
be
can project
sensitive.
out over the next 10 years the capital costs, I think that'd be a good thing.
I think I can try. The farther
That's all. Try. That's all I'm saying is try.
The farther out I go,
If you can do it,
the less accurate I'll become. But I certainly
We could be in 10 years by the time this meeting ends.
Yeah, you know what, though? You know what? I don't want to see. Time is irrelevant to me right now. We have a task. We need to stay focused on it. I know you said as soon as we start, I got to get out of here. Marty, you can go, bud. We got stuff to do that impacts 8,400 residents. I will stay past midnight if I have to get
Can
it
you
done.
show me a year and a half ago a bridge budget? None. Show me 8 months
That's
ago.
what I'm saying, a lot's been-
Tiling budget.
I got it.
None. How about we have a 1 year plan? I think this is all important. I'm not arguing. I think we've spent way more time than we need to on this subject.
I disagree.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I got a couple other questions.
Okay.
I'll go to the next topic. And guys, please, I got kids at home I want to see, but I signed on for this, so I'm going to take my time and do it. Okay, the next thing is, I think we got to be careful, and I appreciate your comments with the fire department revenues for the EMS. I don't know how much research, and you can say we're the only department here, but I tell you, I've checked with the 2 local hospitals, AGH and PRMC, the cost for the billing. There are some additional things that happen when you sign up for ambulance EMS billing. Guys, I got 20 years as a fire chief. I'm very familiar with a lot of this process. So I just think we ought to be careful as a board of directors to say, well, we're going to have a windfall. I know you didn't say windfall, but to put this as we're expecting this, not necessarily the case. Not only that, but I know for a fact that the fire department with Jamie is making a real effort through contacts with Tom, and I know this only because if you all recall, I'm assigned as a liaison to the fire department. They're making efforts. They'd like to be a bigger part of the budget process. And when they're initiating that they want to be, is telling me they're willing and they want to come in and show us and help us and be part of it. So I just think we got to be careful not to say they hide it or they do their normal or this is something we can't expect. I'm just saying the impression.
Bob,
That's all.
I don't think anybody said they were hiding anything. I think
Well,
the
wait a
only thing
minute.
was it came up, if I may.
Yes, sir.
A couple of months ago, it came up that they went to this new billing system, and as a result of the new billing system, there was a potential that they were going to capture this $15 that we were paying, and that the discussion was, how do we benefit from it.
Got
And I
it.
think that's all Pete or anybody else was saying on that.
Just determine if there is a benefit.
Yeah, and-
Understood,
and-
but we said paying twice tonight.
Well, I think what he
And I
meant
don't
by
think
that.
that's the case. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think what was meant by that is they're collecting, or they may be
They
collecting.
may be,
Okay,
correct.
and I think that's what Pete said. They may
Right.
be collecting that, and we, in our association dues, is also giving them that same amount of money. That's how I interpret what you said.
And that,
we-
I'm good, that's what I'm saying, we need to make sure we're clear on that. I hate to have that as one of our guiding budgets. They want to work with us, and we should be open about that. That's all. They're my 2 points.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, now, so really what we're talking about, in the 5-year financial plan for increased assessments to cover the capital costs for the next 5 years, what we're talking about. Isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The $30 plan.
So we want to, that's what we're talking about there in that item 1. The next we're talking
Pete's
about.
$90.
We're talking about emphasizing quality services to the membership.
105.
And we're talking about realistic budgeting for all the amenities and everything. And we're talking about the 3% maximum salary opportunity. We're talking about the fire department. And if we put it in there, it's going to force us to ask the questions. And if the questions are, that's all we're really, that's what we're trying to do. If we don't put it in there, we might avoid the question, okay? And then, of course, the road surfacing thing. So what we could do is we could smooth this up. We can turn it into a motion, and we could bring it up again at the next meeting and pass it quickly.
Okay.
Or
Alternatively, embrace this.
we could embrace this. We could embrace this as guidance right here and say, this is our guidance, and still put it in smooth.
He's beginning the
I
budget
need more than
process
6
like now,
minutes.
right?
Yeah.
Phil, he's
So, I think, do we have any other, I know are you going to object and you want us to remove that stuff for this, get this thing passed, or what?
The fire department stuff?
Yeah.
I don't think it belongs in there. I mean, you're talking about.
Okay, well, that's what we're talking about. If board members, do you think it belongs, who does not think it belongs in there? 2. Who thinks it belongs in there? 4.
Just a reminder, as I see it.
That's
all I see it as.
That's
Fair
the
enough.
intent, okay?
Yeah.
Another thing about this document, before we
Yeah.
start raising hands and saying yes and no, I hope we're not planning on voting on this tonight. I've seen it an hour, well, how long have we been here, 4 or 5 hours ago?
What we'll do then is we'll put it into a motion, you can look it over, and we'll
Yeah,
vote
now,
on.
before we vote 6-1 against me, I'd like to have a chance to read it.
You got it, okay.
How long will it take you?
The way it's written, it's probably gonna take me more
It's
than
an
5
important
minutes.
thing, and I respect that, Marty, it's an important thing, and I.
It is, and let me just remind you all that the board was not even engaged in this last year. It was the treasurer and the president. Thank you.
The board was involved.
No, it wasn't, not in that initial meeting.
Okay. Any more discussion about this? All right. I'm gonna depart from the rules for a second. We have the chair of the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee here. Do you have anything you want to add to this, Brian?
I just, I sent our annual report to you, and to Pete also earlier this week, and I don't know if you got a chance to look
The
at it.
draft, I saw.
Between devoted
Draft, yeah.
time
It
and
was
wasting
drafted out, yeah.
time.
we
One
got
of
a
these
few
days I'll
to
teach you.
make some adjustments.
Okay.
But one of the things, we just kind of wanted to touch base on was the fire department. I recommended to review and revise the contract.
That's why it's there, because there are people that are questioning it. I think we have an obligation to find out and ask. If we don't put it in here, we won't. But I have no preconceived idea about that.
Another thing that I suggested in that was also, as far as from a payroll cost, it's one of our largest, obviously it's our largest expenditure each year. And just maybe look at ways, we had talked last year during the budget process, look at ways where automation can kind of help out with payroll costs and things like that. So, I think maybe the financial.
And that's in the report that's in the draft, right?
Yeah. you'll get the
But it relates to the budget.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to return to the rules, and what we'll do is we'll put this into a motion. We'll get it out quickly. Okay, for you to review.
Okay.
Okay. In the meantime, Tom, I think you can see where we're going, and
I think we have enough information to get, we're already started.
all right. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a discussion of the Helby motion.
And what I'm trying to do here now is about 100 members at the annual meeting passed a motion. We talked about it at the last meeting, and we have an obligation to close the loop. That's all I'm trying to do. So I drafted for you all a document the other day, and I sent it out for you to look at. But basically what it says is, it reviews the three parts of the motion, and it states that the board did in fact meet with the supervisor for water and wastewater services for Worcester County and the chair of the Water and Wastewater Advisory Board, and we discussed the matter. I've met with John Tustin. Pete met with John Tustin. We discussed this, and basically the board shared our concerns regarding this, and I think we all are concerned about the improvement of the appearance of the pump station fences. Okay? And we agree that the appearance needs to be improved, and asked the Water and Wastewater Advisory Board to address this matter as a matter of priority during the annual budget process. Okay, for their budget process. Number two, the board requested that a timely replacement and maintenance program be implemented within the normal budget process, not an emergency, okay? And we're in agreement that the placement and maintenance where needed be effected with wooden and not vinyl material. But also that when replacement is considered, we ask that perimeter of the fences be reduced to the size actually needed to allow for the maintenance of the equipment. And we did ensure, we were asked and we ensured that a copy of the motion we passed was provided to the appropriate people in the county. Okay, so we've closed the loop on this. This statement will be available to the press, and that's the end of it.
Is that in our package?
No, that was.
No, I sent it to you by email. I didn't have it by now. I thought we were going to get a motion, but we didn't.
I don't have it.
Okay. All right. But it's just a statement. It's a statement of the discussion that we all sort of consented to at the last meeting. And one of the directors, Dave Stevens, said we needed to provide something more formal. Okay.
Has anyone gone back to this gentleman and said that the board, in this part about vinyl versus wood, I don't remember us making a firm decision, but I'm in agreement with it.
Okay.
But that's not what his motion said.
I know. We
His
didn't agree.
motion said vinyl privacy fence.
Well, and I'm giving him feedback that we aren't agreeing with that.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure he was on board with it.
That's what it says. Okay.
And in fairness, you know, the motion made at the annual meeting without any prior discussion, any preliminary look at it, it all sounded wonderful. Nobody focused on vinyl versus wood. You know, it was a non-issue, right?
Yeah, well, we talked about
But
it
as we
last
took the time to look into it, there are reasons why it ought not to be vinyl.
Okay. Quickly, we want to go over the pending action list on those major items we need to talk about.
I'm going slow for Marty's.
Remember, there's a difference between...
All right, resolutions reviewed. Dave's not here, so we're going to skip that one.
No, we're not. We're going to have some,
who's got-
take care of a couple of them today.
But that's later in the, we're not going to do that now, right?
No, we're going to do it, today.
Understand, but you don't want me to...
No.
Right, you said go fast.
Okay, go ahead.
Delinquent assessments, we're going to talk about that today. Right, Pete?
We don't have to.
No.
No.
Why not?
What would you like to talk about?
Well, I mean, you want me to wait until we get to the ECC? I've come up with a plan to eliminate half of our problem properties in Ocean Pines. 50% of them aren't paying their dues. And we do nothing. I know that everybody here, oh yes, we do, we put liens on them. But we're charged by our documents to then follow that lien to foreclosure. We have a property that we were gonna look at today that we may have pulled out of the pile that has lots of equity in it. And we've done nothing, other than find out there was lots of equity there. I'm sure we're working on these delinquent things, but,
Okay.
and I hear how
We're not
good
going to
we're-
solve this at this meeting today.
There were 439 notices of liens set out on a month ago, September the 14th. 439 notices of liens for delinquent dues.
Okay?
So the process has started with respect to those 439.
I'm talking about properties that are in their
lots of them
third year, Pete. Third year, not this year, third year. This is their third annual, notice of lien. Throw that in the trash with the other 15 unpaid bills we got today.
I think what the gentleman is suggesting is that we may need a discussion of when it is we embark upon a process that we've not previously
We have
embarked
discussed
upon.
it and discussed it and
What-
discussed
and that
it.
is
We don't post
foreclosure.
the names, we don't do anything we're directed to do.
We've got a resolution we've passed that by the end of March, the treasurer and a group of people are going to sit down, look at every single one of those guys, and decide individually what we're going to do with them.
Let me just.
Never heard of it being
Yeah,
done that way.
well-
It's
But
let
pretty
me just-
simple. If they're 3 years late, foreclose. It's what your documents command.
I've heard the
you-
general manager say it's not quite that simple.
Oh, I've heard the general manager say that too. How many have we foreclosed on in the last 3 years
I
since you've
mean,
been
you have
here?
not foreclosed on any since probably the mid-1980s.
Mid-80s, 20 years.
Well, how come I read other condominiums and homeowner associations notices in the newspaper every day? They got tougher management companies that are willing to do their job?
What newspaper, you're talking about? local-
Daily Times.
Yeah.
This was an update.
Why don't we ask?
Pete.
It's only an update.
Yeah, if
They
this is
got a
on,
guy
yeah.
here,
Marty,
Jenkins
Marty,
agreed, it
this
doesn't
is
do
only an
it.
update of what we're going to do, and we are going to take care of this tonight.
Yeah.
No, I
And we're
think
gonna
we ought
address
to put
it.
it off. Let's put it off.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Next thing, let's put off something else.
My whole point,
We'll move
Pete,
on.
you had said
No, no, no.
439 went out, and we've gotten how many back?
We've got lots of dollars. Art, did you get the dollars from me?
That would be an update.
I mean, we've collected in the last 30 days 92,000, but
But you don't know how much of that's from the,
Well, the vast majority.
what I asked Art.
The vast majority are, right?
yeah.
Let me just give you where we are right now. As of September 30th, we have prior year dues of 125,000. The aggregate amount of 2-year outstanding dues is 46,000. 3 years is 10,000. So those who owe the aggregate dollars associated with 3-year plus dues is 10,000. 2-year plus dues is 46,000.
I think you're way wrong there, Pete. I think you're over 300 grand, and that doesn't add up.
No, no,
It's
I think you're right.
501, Marty, the total amount of dues outstanding is $501,917.
Okay.
But most of it's
Okay.
1 year past due.
307,955 of that, and I'll give you a copy of this, is current year.
Yep.
Prior year is 125. Those that you're referring to are 2 and 3 years old. I'm telling you, the numbers are 46 and 10.
Have we had improvement since our last meeting?
Yes.
That would be the update. Any
What
idea
I
how much
can't answer for
improvement?
you is exactly how much of the dues in the last 30 days applies to those 439 accounts versus not. And Art, I hope you can get that, because that's an important number.
All I'm saying is,
That's, I tried to get it. I couldn't get
50%
it.
of the ECC violations that we are going to vote to send to court should already be in court. What?
Okay, I'm just updating you guys on the delinquent assessment, so that's it,
The
okay?
update is, let's postpone it.
Okay, amenity task force.
Yeah,
John?
well, listen, I'm not here, so I mean, actually, I have a meeting coming up, Bob, on Friday to hopefully resolve our minor differences. And maybe we'll be ready by the 21st. Oh, sorry, not by the 21st of September.
No. So we'll get a better update by the next board meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
we just got a few things to take care of.
Hey, Bill, F&B working group? Any update on that?
We had a meeting, and we're going to meet as required. And we're going to continue going, and we've assigned a person from the Budget and Finance Committee and assigned somebody from the Clubs Committee.
So the change there is they're not meeting every month as a regular committee?
as needed.
As needed. Okay. Okay, stay with you, Bill. Compliance policies and procedures.
That's going to be held on the 21st.
Okay.
Membership response program's going well.
Don't have anything for the election committee report yet. It's not due until November. All right, pending committee is,
That's just a reminder, we're on
Yeah.
top of that. We're on top of that.
pending committee assignments.
We're on top of that.
All of those.
May I?
Well, I'll get to those, they're on down here.
Including this extension?
Well, we'll talk about that when we're at our committee assignment.
Okay.
All right. Pending actions, 10-year rehab, you're going to talk about, or the task force, right? You're going to talk about that as one of your items, Tom?
Right.
Right? So I'm going to go through that. all of these, actually, I think were on our list, so we really don't have to go through these, do we?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so we're going to skip those because you'll give it in your manager's update. To include the community center final report?
Yep.
Okay.
We just started at 3 o'clock.
All right, how about some updates on the IRS issue? Anything new on that?
In my manager's report, I'll tell you when the latest information. I don't think there's a date scheduled yet. No
SPN?
trial date.
SPN?
It's all in the management report.
Trial, it's in the manager's
It's all in
report.
the,
All these are? So I can skip
Yeah,
down
the
there?
merit and incentive.
yeah, they're all covered.
Okay, merit and incentive plan? I know we got,
Yeah, let's talk about that.
okay, we all got a copy of that. Now, I don't know.
Recently.
Recently,
When you
yes.
say recently, when?
Several
Mid-September?
weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Was it by email?
Yes. You want a copy, Marty?
Put a copy.
I didn't get a copy.
I don't think it was by now, I think it's placed in the box.
What is the status of this? Tom, you and I talked about it a little bit today, because I know that you turned it in, I don't know, some time ago, but it never went to the directors, so.
Turned it into July, I think I passed it on to
The
Bill.
date was 28 May, I believe.
It
28
was something came out way back
May
when, that's why I
28.
was asking.
28
But it was only distributed here recently, in the last couple of weeks.
Just on about the 18th of September or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So the board has never really embraced or discussed or even reviewed it.
It did come out to the old board, but it was never, it came out via email, because I remember Tom sent it out, but there was never discussion on it.
We do have it.
Tom sent it out
Marty and Bill
way
don't
back
remember
when.
getting it.
I remember getting a copy of it back when you sent something out.
I delivered it to President Dave Stevens at the time. I don't know if they distributed it
Something
or
was
not.
sent out by email on it, 'cause I remember an email coming from you on adopting a merit pay thing, but there was never any discussion on it, that I remember.
No, I'll bet you that was a proposal to have an outside contract.
I know you got it.
Yeah.
Was that what it was? Okay.
He never sent it to the directors. He just gave it to Dave Stevens.
Okay. Stand corrected.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so are we mentioned it last month, we
It's
were gonna
still
get it,
staying
and
on
we've
there,
gotten
right?
it.
Well, I think,
Not with me, but I got it.
do you want to talk about it now?
I don't mind talking about it. Part of the goals and objectives that the board established for me last January or February was that I prepare one. I had sought out an independent contractor to actually do one for us. The proposal came in high. In turn, I did one in-house instead. I prepared it. I had it done by the deadline date that I was assigned. Presented it to the president. I passed it on when Bill was elected president. I passed it on to him in September. I expect it to be circulated and reviewed by the board. It's not cast in stone. I certainly welcome any input that you might have to it.
Okay, well,
I mean, I read it quickly, but I have a lot of questions about
You
it.
do?
Yeah, I mean, I was new to the process, and then when I understood that the prior board had not focused on it at all, I felt that it was a need for the new board to do so, and we haven't done that yet, so.
let you and I
It's to do.
review it
All right.
and talk to Tom about it, we'll get
Okay.
back on it.
All right, fine.
Okay. So am I changing the responsibility to you, or is it still Tom's
It's still
responsibility?
Tom's responsibility, but we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Your names are on there, by the way. Okay, the website, just continuing improvement. I can tell you from a communications committee, that's been redesigned. Ron's done a great job. Matter of fact, he sent out the updated agenda for the meeting coming up next week, and it's all detailed, very detailed, and this is one of the things they're going to be looking at, utilizing the website more aggressively. So that should be good for us. Comprehensive plan. That's, we don't have a person necessarily assigned.
There's a committee.
I attended last meeting, they're working on it, or they're,
Archie's
That work?
doing a lot,
Yeah,
and
they-
I've been giving him a lot of information.
Okay. Let's see, the commissioners' meeting. You all should have gotten a copy of the information supplied to us by council as requested. They gave us what we need to do or not do. We're pressing forward
press on.
with it.
Good.
So, yeah,
All right.
the next thing is executive council. That meeting is actually tomorrow night at 7, and it's over here at the new community center. And Tom, I appreciate you and your staff, because I think you guys have that all set up, or you're going to have your staff set it up.
We'll be double checking tomorrow afternoon to make sure everything's ready to go.
Copy of the agenda was sent out to everybody over a week ago.
I'm going to take that and make a more formal agenda. It'll be ready.
Okay. All right, so that one's on target. And Volunteer Appreciation Night, we're moving forward with that. I've spoken to Tom. He's working with Joe to get, the yacht club has been, the room's reserved, and now we're working on the menu and itinerary for it.
And when the RSVP is ready.
Okay, so they're all on target.
Okay.
That's it. That's it for the...
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Final report from the Community Center Task Force. Ted Maroney prepared that. He emailed it, when, yesterday?
I got the final.
The final was at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm actually working on the
Final.
second last.
So,
And Tom had taken that
covered the
task.
salient points of that.
Yes.
First, what I'm presenting here is Ted Maroney's report. Ted's business requirements that kept him from being here today, but I just want to take just 1 minute and say how much I appreciate Ted Maroney and all the work he's done. He's been the coordinator for this project. He has been a godsend. It's, there aren't enough words in the English language for me to say good things about Ted Maroney, and as I read this, I'm actually reading his words, so although I wholeheartedly support them, all credit belongs to Ted. All right. And the report, it's the final report it's got a twofold purpose. It reports to you what the final costs are, but it also says this whole process has been a journey of experience and enlightenment, and there's some good things that have come out of it, and we want to make sure that we keep them in mind for project going forward. All right, so the task force wishes to comment to the board regarding several items and the lessons learned. We want to apply those lessons to future projects and operations within OPA, and they include the following. First is when we're talking about scopes and general pre-contract considerations. Lehman Construction Services did a complete scope of work, and because of that, it posed no significant problem for us. But even when there's a detailed scope of that work, we need to understand that several clarifications, changes, and substitutions are necessary prior to executing the contract. So, A, we've started with a good scope of work. B, that still required clarifications and changes and substitutions to the contract. And the attention that's to detail can't be overemphasized when it comes to a task force like we've had, going through each and every line of the contract and the scope of work to make sure that what we want is what we expect and what we pay for. The next suggestion is that allowances should be avoided in products specified as part of the lump sum contract whenever possible. Third is a complete study of the finished project needs to be completed. And one regret was we didn't involve all of the departments earlier in that process. Using the facility, those people that are using the facility at the end of the project required several minor modifications and alterations that probably wouldn't have been necessary if we had involved them earlier in the process. Unknowns must be accounted for. One of the unknowns that we had pop up was the county required upgrades and expansion to the adjacent parking lot and additional parking lot lighting. Those were a couple of things that we had not anticipated when we were starting to put this project together. And the important point in this is that we had adequate contingency funds to cover those unanticipated expenses. And we should never forget that contingency funds are not slush funds. They are provided just for those kind of unexpected contingencies that pop up. Most important on a design-build contract is to choose a builder with design-build experience and feel confident with that contractor. Design-build requires a mutual trust and is truly a partnership, and And Ted mentions specifically that we were fortunate to have Lehman Construction Services doing this job. They did a good job for us. Okay, that's a summary of the areas that are for scope and general pre-contract. When it comes to contract execution, that reminds us of cases that we have with SPN and some other things where we need to be ever vigilant on the contracts that we enter into and how we're managing those. The contract that we started with on this particular project was very fair in comparison with many used by contractors. We still needed significant changes, and in particular the area of indemnity insurance and the turnkey project language were important. And the termination for convenience or cause language was important as well. The primary contract negotiation was just one member of the task force and the president of Lehman. The initial changes were made. Once the initial changes were made, the entire task force and board were given multiple opportunities to review and comment, alter, and eventually approve the contract. It worked well, and I think that's the point to be taken away from with this. Proper contract negotiation is critical to the success of the project. Where contracts require board approval, that we recommend that the GM utilize appropriate individuals to ensure the terms and conditions of all contracts are in the best interest of OPA, and OPA council is required to review them. We want them reviewed in a greater scope than just legally sufficient, but to make sure that our interests are well protected. We encourage the use of volunteers and experts in this field to help us with those. Project management is the next category of comments and recommendations. And the task force concept of bringing together a diverse group of individuals with varied backgrounds was validated as a tool to ensure a complete project. Again, I've said, I can't say enough good things about Ted Maroney, but equally as important, what a great team of people on our community center task force. They all came with different disciplines. They all had different perspectives, and I think that helped us to bring this project along with little or no problems. So I'm real proud of that entire task force, and I certainly appreciate and respect all the work that they did on this project. Cost control and restraint was essential, particularly in the majority of the changes that we had were in the finishes of the project and the upgrades. We worked a lot on tile floors and things like that, but it was critical in the early months of the project that we hold any changes to a minimum. We actually did that. We required strict cost accounting from internal departments, the contractor, and the OPA finance office. Sometimes the whole process was frustrating to those that were actually trying to accomplish that, but bottom line was it was in the best interest of the community, and I think we got a good product because we worked so hard at it. So that's the message at that point. Management of the project was also key. What we did was we had an OPA employee assigned as for day-to-day oversight. Probably 99% of all the issues and problems that we encountered were resolved at the site, at the time, without serious impact. And that was key. We had a second member of the task force who dealt directly with the president of Lehman. When it became greater than just a he said, she said type thing, we took it out of the arena and brought it up to the boardroom, and it worked very well in that sense. It was also critical the task force bring to the full board any issues that could result in controversy regarding authority. Early on, there was questions as to how much authority did the task force have. We established the parameters of that authority, and we moved forward once we had established those parameters, and the system worked well. The great part of all this is the project was completed in August, 2 months ahead of schedule, and came in about $19,000 below budget. There was a great effort in value engineering and cost benefit changes, including better boilers and heating systems and things like that. Ted makes particular mention of Joe Costello, who was responsible for day-to-day operations, worked extremely well with the contractor. He was a real talented guy, and boy, am I glad to see that he was on site with this thing from start to finish. Finally, we want to thank the board and the OPA membership for their support in giving us the opportunity to complete this project. And as chairman of this task force, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you one more time just how thrilled I am to have been able to be part of a team like the task force, the community center task force that brought this project in budget and ahead of time, and encourages me to look forward to the projects that are on the horizon and hope that we can be as successful in those as we have been with this one.
Okay, thank you. Any comments?
Great job.
Right. We need to make sure we have a book that captures this particular project so we can refer back to it. I know we've already created a book. I think we need to define contingency in the future. We had a lot of discussion about contingency, and I think we handled it right myself.
Yeah, again,
but we'll make sure next time I've got a little note of that, make sure we define contingency.
Okay.
All right. Then we'll move right along. General Manager's report.
I have a 4-page report, and I'm going to try and move through it quickly, but I think there's a lot of good information in here, so I just want to share with you. Now that the summer's over, we can look back and see where some of our tough areas were. As the summer season closed, beach club parking revenues fell short by about $4,800. Golf continues behind plan by about $31,000. Aquatic results show shortfalls totaling $42 in memberships and $17,000 in coupon sales. As I mentioned last month, we've gone through some extensive expense reductions to offset our shortfalls in revenue. We'll continue that effort wherever and whenever we can throughout the rest of the year to minimize the end of the year financial impacts. 10-year plan task force, I've prepared a memo. I think I probably want to make sure that before I implement it, the board is on board completely, but my objective is this. I talked a little bit earlier about the process that we're going through, the extensive process we're going through to review and develop scopes and create as much detail as we can on various projects that we'll be considering in the future. It has slowed the 10-year plan process down considerably. I see real value in trying to get the report done, create a roadmap, and continue to simultaneously work on all these different projects. I want to make sure the board's on board with the whole approach, but I think they can be done simultaneously. My intent is to keep everyone informed and involved, but I'm certainly, you've got the memo in your packets. I welcome your input. I would very much like to try and complete the plan, create the roadmap, and then continue on with the review of the various projects in as much detail as we can.
Tom, with regard to that, I just saw that. I've been out of town for 8 days. But that has not been exposed to the 10-year plan task force, as I understand it. It's just, I mean, you're bringing it, it's in our board packets here.
Well, it has been circulated. It's been circulated.
Oh, I got it today I got it, but I mean, there's been no discussion or input from that group about what your...
No, I've discussed it with probably 4 or 5 different members of it.
Okay.
But you've been out of town.
Always available by my cell phone.
But,
go ahead.
But
I've talked to the president about it.
I have discussed it with several members of the task force. What I was reacting to was I'd got an email from Bill not too long ago that said the board was looking for us to complete this plan sometime along, and it was, how can I get this plan done?
Here's what I would like to just raise, and if you all say no, Pete, that's fine. Before asking the board of directors, including me, to sign off on this, I, for one, would like to understand better the reaction of the actual task force, which I've been proud to have been a member of. I talked to Bill, and Bill didn't seem to be very aware of what was going on here. So I have a reluctance as a board member to embrace something that is not, I know he got it, but So, I mean, Bill, if you're comfortable with it and it's the way we ought to go,
I think we ought to discuss it in the next task force.
that's what I would think.
And then, here we are here. What?
Just one question, why? We just, I think we just spent weeks praising the results of this task force, and now we're gonna change it.
Marty,
Why?
that's two different, well, two things happening here. You've got, I think we just, okay, two things. The task force is going in two different directions. There's two different projects going on at the same time. One is project design, which is, you know, to what extent are we going to do these renovations? Where are the, you know, where's the bar and the dance floor going in the second floor of the yacht club, and those kind of questions. And the other one is to develop the roadmap that you're going to follow over the next 10 years. There are two separate projects, clearly.
So Tom, what is your plan here? Are you going to wait and ask to?
I'm happy to circulate this and say.
Bill, that's good. I
It's
think.
your task force.
Yeah, it is, but I think it'd be best to get the input of the task force at our next meeting before asking the board to sign off on something that the task force has.
Actually, I'm not even asking the board to sign off. I'm certainly welcome your input, but it was my task force, and it was go get this job done. And I don't mind.
Well, at least
doing
have some communication with the president.
Well, my question, wait a minute, my question here, as I look at this, it's your task force and you're trying to meet a requirement that the board asked you. I remember seeing the email that Bill had sent, hey, where are we, how do we expedite this? You're bringing this saying, here's how you plan to expedite it. Is it the president's task force or is it yours? I don't know. That's where I'm at a little bit of a loss when I look at this. And how many of the task force members have you spoken to? Because I don't know either of those right now. You've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 members on the task force. Obviously, you didn't speak to Pete about it.
No.
But who, I mean...
Well, let me tell you who I've talked to. I've talked to Maroney, I've talked to Nelson, I've talked to Bill C. I did speak with Bill last Wednesday during the agenda meeting.
You told me you were thinking about reorganizing. You didn't tell what you were going to do.
Yeah.
We can't solve this thing right here. It's Tom's task force, and Tom can do what he wants, but, you know,
within limits.
I would recommend that you...
But why within limits if it's his task force?
Because
That's why I
it's an
don't
important
understand.
responsibility of the
It wouldn't be a
board.
task force if it was up
The
to
board
Tom.
created the task
We
force.
created the task.
Guys, wait a minute. The only reason I'm asking this question, okay, is we had a pretty intense discussion about, is it Tom's task force before or is it the board's? And now 3 board members are serving on a task force to meet. Now, this was, again, task
I'm
force
sorry I
was
was elected,
formed.
but yeah, it was.
Task force was formed prior to.
Yes, I understand.
Okay? So my point here is, if Tom's trying to meet a requirement, how long are we going to, all I'm saying is, Tom, I applaud you, despite some of the animosity I'm feeling right now. I appreciate the fact you're trying to put something together to accomplish a goal of ours. I appreciate that. You may want to, and I'm okay with waiting another week or two, but I'd like to see the 10-year plan. If this is an effort to get me that, that's what I'd like to see as a board member.
I've got 2 objectives here. One is I would like to continue the 10-year plan that says, here's our roadmap, okay? The one great thing about my 10-year plan task force is, well, the tough thing is there's a lot of people on the 10-year plan task force. The good thing is there's a lot of talent on the 10-year plan task force. What I'm looking to do is try and maximize the talents of those people with construction and design backgrounds and put them in a position to say, go figure out the best renovation, the best rehabilitation, the best new building that we should have for each one of these major facilities. Work diligently on that. In the meantime, let's put together a report, a 10-year plan report that says, here are priorities, here's when we think we ought to do them. And oh, by the way, I'm not doing that void of input from the design group. It's, here's a draft set of priorities. Do you agree with them? If you don't, tell me what you think about, you know, where should we reshuffle them? Okay? Let's put some RS means estimates to either rehabilitations and or replacements of those buildings. Okay? And we can put together a plan that says, here's your roadmap.
I don't think we're going to solve this thing here right now.
If I could just make a quick suggestion, I think all I'm hearing is that the task force, at least one task force member, would like the whole task force to have a chance to discuss it. It's probably no different than what Pete sent and gave us tonight. We ourselves didn't have enough of time to do that, and we want to sit back and take our own personal look at, a hard look at it. My recommendation, Tom, is you send us the email to each of them.
Before I
At our
go
next
home
meeting.
tonight, I'll just ask the task force folks by via email to provide
Yes.
any input that they have.
And that's-
No, beg your pardon, excuse me. You can say no, but I would like the task force to have the opportunity at its next meeting to discuss this. A key member of that task force from day one has been Bill Rako. As I understand it, he had no input into this.
No.
There was no discussion with it. There was no informing the president.
Actually, no, don't.
So all I'm saying is let's have a meeting, and talk about it and
That's
be done with
fair.
it. Be
What I
done with it.
reacted to was an email from the president, and the president said, the board wants to know when you're gonna get this done.
Okay, I know, all right.
Well, so that's a little different than not.
Yea or nay?
Bill did have some input. He started.
All right. Moving on. You'll be quick on your report, I thought, huh?
I'll try.
Okay.
I didn't slow it down. Okay.
Women racket pool deck.
Okay, today I expected to have for you a proposal from an architect to do the design and bid specifications to replace that pool deck. I have not gotten it in hand yet.
Wow.
I can't show it to you until I get it. and
That's really getting us behind the eight ball.
I guarantee you, as soon as I get it, you get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, whether I get it or not, we gotta have the pool open next summer.
Well, hey, remember now, we've got all demolition done. It's a matter of getting the thing bid
I'm not
out.
right, but this guy's had this in his hands for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. What can I say? I expected it by now. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I would have
sure.
thought we'd had it by now. That's my only complaint. I'm not blaming you for Almy not coming through, but
We're not, okay. All right, bridges, I've mentioned that President Rako, Treasurer Gomsak, and I met with Director of Public Works John Sustin. We are looking at options that will provide about 80% funding for the bridges if it's available next year. We're working towards that.
Let me say something there. Your report here says that 80% funding may become available. My understanding is it will become available, that the money is in fact fenced and waiting there, and we're the top priority bridges in the county. Now, if there's any question about that, I will go back and find out if there's any doubt, okay?
that's
Can I
why
do
I
that?
may underline.
Okay.
Is there a question?
Not in my mind.
Nor in mine.
None.
Do we have the money?
Well, where are we gonna get 450?
Then May is a good
roads?
word for me. We don't have the money, but we should follow up Mr. Tustin, because I believe the money is there, but I understand why May was
Or was
used.
it? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, one of the items,
And the reason why we need to do that is to make sure during the budget process, we know exactly what we're talking about.
Let me ask a question, Bill, as this is, he's indicated in a 2012 fiscal year, which is 2 years down the road. How can he guarantee it? Because he's saying, Tom used the word may.
Okay.
I wouldn't get hung up. Here's why, let me tell you why I use the word may. Last spring, the suggestion was made that we attempt to apply for some federal funds, okay? We went through the process to do that, and we went through the evaluation process in order to set the stage to do that, and found through the evaluation process that we wouldn't have qualified. So I started down a path believing that there might have been funds available, and turned out that Plan B had to be implemented because they weren't. So
That's my point. This is a
I'm
budget.
hedging my bets. I want to believe that, and I think it's a good idea to confirm that.
I'll confirm it, because based on that, we budgeted $800,000.
Yeah.
Here's what I believe. I believe that the money is there, but I believe if the money is not there, we still will not spend that money.
I buy all that there.
That's important, because the county is going to be obligated to fix those bridges. And we pay 20% of the cost to fix them, so that's the real key to this whole thing, okay?
Are they part of the county inventory? They should
No,
be, right?
they're not. They are not
formally
part of
yet.
the county inventory.
And we're working that
Unless it happens
process?
this
And we're not
month
doing
already,
anything.
but no.
How do we,
It's not up to
how's
us.
that happen?
Because the lawyers are taking care of the proper words to make it happen. It's been
Oh, okay.
voted, the county commission has voted and told the staff to do it. It has not been done yet.
That's what I was wondering.
Okay.
Thank
What
you.
happens here all the
They're
time.
just doing the paperwork. The county commissioners have already approved it.
Okay.
All right, next item. I really don't, I'm trying to move through this for you folks. The yacht club, this comment that I have here on the yacht club is tied into something that's under old business on the thing, and that's to affirm a 2010 yacht club closing. Marty correctly brought up last month that there's never been any formal action taken on that, but I'll remind you of the meeting that you had with the 10-year plan task force back in May. Okay? It talked about renovations that were being considered up there and how we would make every effort to try and preserve peak season operations while doing any renovations that occurred. In order to do that, the plan would have been to close down after Labor Day in the year 2010, do whatever renovations were required with the target goal of opening up for the Memorial Day weekend 2011. Okay? So what I'm telling you here is the task force design team is actually working on those plans right now. I've already given Joe Reinhardt a heads up that, you know, if people are calling looking to book weddings and things like that, that particular building will probably not be available, but I want the board to affirm that if we're going to do that. Otherwise, I want him to reverse course and book parties and do everything he can to increase sales as much as possible. Okay, you'll be talking about that later on. We've already talked about Wood Duck 2 drainage, so I won't revisit that. Beach Club bathhouse bids. You will see in your packets we have bids that range from $314,000 to $452,000. The task force looked at them and they were recommending that, based on the costs, which were much higher than our original estimates of somewhere around $250,000 or so, that the bids be rejected, but we won't totally lose the value of this process. We will try and schedule that type of project later on in the 10-year plan, and we've got a much better number than we started with, so at least we salvage something out of that process. Golf. We're finalizing our search for a marketing person. Hopefully by the end of the week we will have completed that, and I'll be announcing what happens with that by the end of the week. Food and beverage update. I think many of you may know that Chef Larry Wilgus has tendered his resignation as of October 7th. That's our bad news. The good news is that Larry will stay on a part-time basis for the foreseeable future, and he will be manning the kitchen for catered events and large activities. I've also lost 2 more employees just in the last couple of weeks, and they are both Margot and Mike Townsend. Margot is our assessment, our membership director, as well as our collections person. Mike is a police dispatcher. Both of them will be leaving us in November.
And they're out, like, you've posted for those jobs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, Mike is,
They're moving to Atlanta.
Yeah, well, I'm saying we have it out where you have applications coming.
Who's moving to Atlanta, Margaret?
Margot and her husband. He's retired.
She's been here like 20.
Yeah,
26 years.
Wow.
26 years.
Wow.
And done a great job for us, and we're happy to have had her for those 26 years. We're sorry to see her go. It's not a...
Yeah.
Tom, can I go back up to the yacht club?
Sure.
Are you asking us to confirm what you have in there or agree with what you have in
He's
there?
got that on the schedule down there.
As Marty mentioned last month, you know, we never really affirmed that closing.
on
We
the
just
agenda.
kind of talked about it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I looked
Near the
again.
bottom.
I missed it when I looked at it after you mentioned it. I said,
It's
no,
generally
okay.
agreed, and I think the board does agree, but let's
See his schedule
formalize
below
it if
says
that's
it
the
never
case.
happens.
No, I see it.
Okay,
I looked, I missed it.
okay, court cases. OPA versus SPN, the trial date is scheduled for October 28th. IRS versus the OPA, there has no been trial date scheduled as of today. OPA versus YMCA, the trial date scheduled for November 25th. 99-year lease proposal, in accordance with the directive of the board from last month, I've notified OC Secrets Inc. that their offer to extend the Bayside parking lot lease to a 99-year term has been respectively declined. Last thing is community hall update. I was just happy to tell you that we have seen heavy usage. If you've been here during the day, you've seen the parking lot pretty much full consistently. They've begun, the Parks and Recs team's begun programming gym activities like dodgeball. I think that starts this week, and there's like 150 participants. They've got lots of other programs, including drop-in basketball, volleyball, ballroom dancing, and other programs. Leading group events are being marketed. You passed the storage policy a couple months ago, and I thought you'd be interested in knowing that we've rented 11 storage units to date.
Out of?
18 total. So,
Did our policy hurt us in the renting? I thought we were like over capacity with the old
the concern
building.
was there'd be greater demand for storage than we had capacity, so that didn't occur.
Okay.
The good
Okay.
side of that is, I don't think anyone's ever built a building that found that they had enough storage, so we'll make use of every inch that we
Sure.
don't rent, and we're okay.
Okay.
That concludes my manager's report, unless you have some questions. Marty?
There was some comment earlier about a mess in the new community hall. I know we had a lot of stuff going through. Is that a fact? I mean, are we having people that aren't cleaning up their mess?
I'm not aware of anything like that, but bottom line is, we have a custodial person over there who...
That's it. The deal was, you don't pay for it, but you clean it up.
Yeah.
Now, if
It's the first
Bill,
I've
you
ever-
weren't here. The gentleman earlier this evening in the public comment section talked about his wife being there today and an
And it was a
event
mess.
last night. He said it was a mess.
Oh,
It was
okay.
not today, but last week. It was
Last
some
week?
kind of a fair.
Okay.
And they were complaining the 7:30 workout, where the women all work out, that everything was around, they had to clean it
Oh,
up.
okay,
the
so
floor.
7:30 in the morning, the guy probably comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but we're not supposed to clean up after these people.
I'll find out.
If they're using it for free, they can pick up the
I've made a
place
note
when
to
they're
find out
done.
if, what the
That I agree
problem was,
with.
because I'm not, I
And
wasn't
if they're
aware.
not willing to clean up, the next time they want to use it, it's $500. I mean, come on. Okay, that's Marty's. Right?
You want one?
All right.
No, I'll have more.
Moving on to old business. We have a couple of resolutions.
Oh, boy.
Jim still here?
Jim, you still here?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
I'll move this along quite quickly.
That's what I thought.
There are 5 resolution actions before the board for what we call the first reading. 2 of them involve new resolutions by number. They're M-02 and F-05. Each of those 2 resolutions have associated with them a current resolution which would be canceled if the drafts are approved. That's 4 of the 5 resolution actions. And finally, there's 1 resolution that's recommended that be outright canceled as unnecessary. Excuse me. First would be M-02, which is entitled Amenity Use and Fee Policy. There's an existing resolution, number 2-84-2, and I'll stop here and say for board members, association members, and anybody who sees the video, you can see all resolutions on the website. And it includes drafts and resolution actions that are submitted to the board. Excuse me. The primary difference between the M-02 and the current resolution is that we have deleted a lot of the detailed information. And the reason for that is that the amenity membership and fee structures are a part of your budget process, and we don't want a resolution that has to be changed from year to year because you make some changes in your amenity memberships, or that you make some changes in mid-year in response to changing circumstances, whatever they may be. We also wanted to get out of a resolution anything that would be an artificial or perceived restriction on amenity memberships. What you can come up with creatively to increase memberships by new categories of membership. For example, there's I'm not a tennis player, but there's a junior tennis membership, which is not included in the existing resolution on memberships. It's an individual membership for people who are here in high school or college students who are away from home for most of the year. The intention is to not have anything that's an artificial or perceived restriction on what the staff, and with necessary board approval as necessary, can come up with for memberships in the amenities. As far as publicizing information, this year, the Ocean Pines report in the spring edition had a page on amenity memberships.
the same kind of information, almost verbatim, is in the Ocean Pines Association handbook. If you go to the website, you can see a whole long detail of information on amenity memberships and what's available, whether it's a week, a day, half a year, whatever. Golf, swimming, beach club parking, and so on. All that's on the website. So all of that information is accounted for. We just have now before you a draft which gives basic information, basic responsibilities, and also includes some of the general policies that you can't transfer memberships. The staff, general manager has control of the facilities and so on. Again, there's a resolution that's canceled if that is adopted. Are there any questions on that?
Good.
Okay, if not, I'll continue on here. The one resolution that's submitted for cancellation is related in part to M-02, and that's 2-00-23 household definition. For those of you not familiar with it, there's a resolution that defines what a household consists of, and there's several definitions in that resolution. We actually don't use the household definition in the existing resolution. We use family membership, but not household membership. We do not see, the committee, I'm saying, does not see that as a necessary resolution. For one thing, there's an affidavit that the property owner is supposed to sign at the time application is made for what is really a family membership, hadn't been used for approximately 3 years. Also, the various application forms, which you can see on the website, list the property owner, adults in that property, and dependent children. And the application, in effect, forms the same basis as the affidavit. And so we're recommending that the household definition resolution be just outright canceled, not replaced with anything.
And Jim, I don't have a copy of that, right? I mean, you're just, am I missing something, or are we looking at?
No, it was not transmitted to the board.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But again, all this stuff you can see on.
Yep, no, that's fine, I didn't have it to match up, I thought that was all.
I have a copy here if somebody wants to look at it.
That's fine, thank you.
Finally, excuse me, F-05. The title of that is Abatement of Annual Charge Increases. It's a slightly different title than the existing resolution, which is 010641. For those of you who may not be familiar with it, there is and has been for about 3 years now a resolution that allows people who qualify for the homeowner's property tax credit, Maryland homeowner's property tax credit, allows them to apply for a 1-year abatement of any assessment increase. It's for 1 year. What we have done is simply rewrite the resolution, adding some information about the very basic information about the homeowner's property tax credit, Maryland homeowner's property tax credit background into the resolution. We've changed nothing about the implementation or use of the resolution. It's just been updated the format and added some background information. Any questions on that?
How do people become aware of this? How do we make them aware that I hear people saying they can't afford to do this increase, and yet there's a mechanism here to abate that increase, and I'm wondering how people are made aware of that, Tom.
We've previously put notices in the quarterly newsletter. I'm not sure, I don't recall if the letter that goes out with I don't think it goes out with the annual newsletter.
I haven't seen it before.
I think that if a person has a Maryland tax credit, is a member of the Maryland tax credit program, I think that person's also smart enough to come see us and ask for,
There's also an 800 number that you can call, and they'll give you all the information about it. And
maybe we could
the
put a little,
girls up front
in the
tell
next dues, mailing or something, put something in there, a little slip of paper or something that says,
We've put display.
I see Art's gone. How many people exercised this last
ask
year?
that question. I think it's 3, but I'm not sure.
3. Okay, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, but wait, man.
maybe
Some
it should
people,
be,
this
I
may
heard somebody here
benefit.
tonight say, and
Yeah.
I've never heard this before, and
Right.
I didn't challenge it, but 25% of the people, and 1/3 of the people in Ocean.
Yeah, 25,000 or less in
$25,000 or less. And I
Right.
was curious where you got that information.
80% of people that use statistics make them up.
Well, no, but the point is, this could,
I agree with you.
this could help some of our residents. I mean,
yes, that's the
Tom, would you
point.
please
That's the point.
Yeah,
the
this-
next quarterly report?
I was unaware of it.
yeah, this is a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And we can
It's
put
just
a
a
little slip in the
debate.
draft.
We'll say it the next
Okay,
year.
those are all of, what this is the first reading for all of them.
So if anybody can't afford to do
All right.
increase, and
We're gonna move on here, folks. This is the first reading for all of them. Read them again at your leisure, and we'll pass a motion to pass them at the next board meeting.
Jim, I'm sorry, quick. You said there were some additional changes that are not reflecting what we received?
There's some typographical.
Okay.
I
Okay, they'll be fixed up.
They'll only be typed.
Yeah, yeah, fine.
And we're talking about 2 and 5. Are we talking about 1?
Yeah, why do we have one?
That's just for review.
That's what we're gonna be using that's a mistake. That should have been included in the package.
One
That's
should be, it should have only
Compliance,
been
right?
in your slot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
compliance.
Just-
That's the one we're gonna use at the board meeting next week.
Okay.
Okay.
On the 21st.
That was in your slot,
Right.
but not in your.
We may still be
Thank you.
here.
Yeah, we may still be here if we keep this up.
Perfect.
All right, resolutions review, thank you.
And next
The
week's
first
monthly
reading's
board
been
meeting.
done. We'll pass the resolution next time. CPI violations. Tom?
And we're only going over two.
You already talked about that?
Yes.
Which
We talked
two?
about reducing it to 2,
Okay,
yes.
which two?
We took off
118
Offshore lane
and 36.
and
37
Brookton Lane?
I thought you said 37 Greenwood.
Greenwood was one that we
tabled.
118 we took off because it's taken care of, and 36 Greenwood was tabled, so we're not going to talk about that tonight.
It's offshore lane and
23
Brookton.
offshore lane, right.
Okay, okay, Tom?
Okay. We'll start with 23 Offshore Lane. This is the art committee voted to send this directly to the board for approval to remove the debris. You'll see there's pictures of debris throughout the property. There is some personal property that will not be removed, but the debris would be. So if we're going to,
That's your recommendation?
yes.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Whoa, wait a minute.
We're going to discuss it, wait a minute.
Okay.
Do you have a motion? Do you have a second?
Now we can have discussion.
I'll second it.
Yeah, okay. Any more discussion on this?
Yeah, I went by these homes
Yeah,
today.
I went by this one, and I didn't see anything that wasn't personal property.
Yes.
Now, it's junky and trashy looking, but it's,
I went by it too.
one person's antiques, another person's trash.
That was my concern, that everything I saw on that property
Personal
looked to
property.
me like personal property, and we've been advised by our lawyer that before we go into a property to take personal property, that he first talked to us about it before we get our butt in trouble.
So then, would you like to refer this to council for action in the courts?
Along with, while it's over there, maybe we can get them to foreclose on it, since the guy ain't paying his dues either.
And some of this has changed, by the way, the ladder's not there.
Yeah, he's cleaned it up.
He's cleaned it up, because I did drive by it 3 times today.
When you say he, you think
Oh, here,
them, there's like 5 cars in the
yeah, there's a whole
driveway.
bunch of cars.
5 cars in the driveway.
Yeah, but there's no limit as to how
By the way,
many
2
cars.
of them have expired plates. I looked at the month and the year on the tags. They're expired.
Well, actually, you'll see, if you look at the second last box there, there's apparently another violation open for the property for an unregistered car initiated on 213.
Yes, I saw that too.
All right, October 20th, can we get this issue added to the docket? No? You should have-
Whether it's
that's
personal
the
property or not,
document we went.
in my opinion, it is a mess, and I would not want to live next door to that.
We should have gone to court at the same time on
I've seen-
all
I've
this
seen
stuff.
much
We
worse.
might not have been there. I mean, the
Well, one by one, we ought to get them all.
Been there?
I agree. But
no,
you know,
that's
you
a
get
good
rid of clean up a pigsty, you move the pigs out first.
Okay, would you like to, I mean, I don't, if you'd like to refer to
They're not
council
paying their
for
dues.
follow-up
All right.
on personal property, we're happy to do that too.
What does that mean?
It means we pay a lot more money to our attorney to save money. He goes down there and does all the filing and the things he does, and
In 2 years
either
from
we
now,
either
we'll look at it
get a
again.
consent order, the guy agrees to clean it up, or he goes to court and we are allowed to remove it.
To be clear, the declaration authorize us on two-thirds majority vote of the board to go in and clean up trash.
Trash,
Right.
not personal property.
And that would not cover about 80% of what's here.
So, yeah, we'll
probably.
clean up half the lot.
I'd rather get rid of the 80% than focus on the 20%.
So-
So I'm in favor of doing whatever we need to do to
So the,
get it taken care of.
so the motion is, that you're making is to refer this case to legal for removal of the personal property.
Exactly. I'll make that motion. No, I already did, I guess we did.
We modified it.
We modified it. I'll make that a modified motion and,
So we'll agree to that.
okay.
Okay,
You
so
gonna
the
vote on that?
motion now is to go to court to allow the judge to tell us to remove it.
Personal property, no, it's a mess, isn't it?
Okay.
I know, that's why we need to do it this way.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, the next case is to Brockton. Next week when we talk about this, we gotta talk about if there's more than one violation, we gotta address the entire package to save ourselves time and money.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I have a question on this one also.
Okay?
What is the policy if the trash is covered by tops?
Good question.
Because I believe we
We're
allow
a
that.
boating community.
I don't think there's any, I'm pretty familiar with, I don't think there's any policy that says trash can be covered with it.
I don't know what's underneath the top, but everything with, the only thing I saw today in that driveway was the wheelbarrow, the boat, and of course, if you looked in the garage, which is a total different issue, because you can always close the door on it, was tops out in the front. This is the individual that used to have a lot of, if I remember, lawn gardening equipment, et cetera, out in front of his yard also.
It's a mess, but it's
It's a
all
mess.
personal property. that I can
Same
see.
situation.
Well, I don't know that because I don't know what's underneath the top. And that was my question I have, is there's 3 or 4 tops out there that, you know, they're not neat or anything like that. It is messy.
It's a pigsty.
We owe it to
It's
the
a
neighbors to
pigsty.
take action. If it means we have to go to court, we should go to court.
We should go to
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just
Yeah,
wondering if you could send in a team. Like I said, I just
It's
don't
the
know.
same
what's
issue.
We
Personal property
can
versus
send,
trash,
we can
right.
send Public Works over there to clean up everything that they can verify as trash and not personal property.
What they end up doing.
But that wouldn't clear up the whole problem.
No.
Or anywhere near it, so
Okay.
we need to,
I-
Well, you'll see some comments in there that there's a realtor involved in trying to evict the resident.
Yeah, I mean, it's, almost looks like a fire hazard if you look at the garage. The door was open.
There's an
to-
eviction going on at the same
the
time?
garage was open, was it not?
Oh, yeah.
Did you
see it?
They couldn't get any
Worse than mine.
more in the garage.
It was worse than mine.
Oh, you couldn't get anything more in that
See where
garage.
the Long and Foster comment is?
Yeah,
I,
well, that's just,
Pete, I couldn't believe it.
Bottom line, we want to make it
drove
up
up
to
that way, I
clean
saw
this
the
thing
garage.
up.
All right, then
Oh,
you're
they
going
put
to
it in
change
the
that
garage,
to the
and I
record.
saw
Your
the other
recommendation
shit.
is to refer to legal.
Refer to the same thing.
every single one of them.
Okay.
So motion, I
I'm
move.
changing it to
All right, John is
refer to
moving.
legal. So I need a motion.
John moved and I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, okay.
Says here they've already cleaned up.
Wow.
You know what they did? They
If you
must have
a
moved
few
it out of the
minutes,
garage.
drive by.
All right, Tom,
Drive
you've already
by.
talked about the S&R bid deck proposal, it's not in, right? Okay. Bathhouse bid, you've already talked about,
Right.
okay?
Well, you've got to formally reject the, my recommendation on the bathhouse bids is to reject them and salvage the information to,
Oh, you want, okay, that was the task force recommendation, and you're submitting that to the board. And basically, what we're saying is that because the cost of the bathhouse is going to be somewhere in the vicinity of $350,000 to $400,000, the general manager and the task force is recommending that we reject the bids, because we have to tell these people we're not going to do that. We're going to, this project's going to be held in abeyance until we get a better handle on where we are on costs for swim racket and other things.
Other things, right.
So that's the recommendation of the GM to you all, and you want us to affirm that, right, by motion?
I move that we reject the bids.
Okay.
I second.
Any further discussion? We got to write this up now. We need to write this motion up, okay?
It is with some reluctance that I
You writing
do
it
this
down?
because
All right, read
we're doing
the
discussion
motion.
now.
I think while we're in discussion, this was never an approved project.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not.
No, it wasn't,
No.
but he wants to have
I don't know why we're
our
doing it.
formal approval of putting this project off, rejecting the bids and putting the project. That's
And
what he has to do.
I agree with
President, may
I think
I
it's important.
submit that I do not recall any formal vote on this at the task force level. We had a discussion, we agreed to send the letter, and that was that.
No, I think there was. I
So
think- no,
we approved the letter, we approved the
We
letter.
did,
Yeah.
we did.
The contents of the letter.
We did. Now,
Exactly.
would you read the
No, we
motion?
did. We did.
The
Formal
intro,
was the
the
word
intro
I-
says the board reviewed proposals for construction of a bathhouse at the
consensus.
Beach Club in Ocean City. Clark moves, Thompson seconds, that the board hereby rejects the bids. Rejects the bathhouse bids and directs the GM to notify the bidders that,
Project is held in
Project.
vain.
Are we rejecting the bids, or
Yeah,
are we just
yeah,
declining the
we are.
project?
No,
We're
they-
rejecting
we're
the bids.
We're rejecting the bid.
I
they
think
should,
you,
as a courtesy to the contractors, you don't want them thinking that you're coming back and looking at these. If you're gonna do this project at a future date, you're gonna
Right.
go back out to bid. You're
New
not gonna-
bids.
Okay.
We're closing down this process. I asked the same question.
I would just
Yeah.
add one
Why don't we tell them we're deferring it, and they said, no, you gotta tell them now that you're rejecting the bids, right? So-
I would add in there, Tom, that we're rejecting the bids due to the cost being too high. We made a lot of issues about trying to get this thing done for the folks,
Yeah.
and we need to tell them why we're rejecting it, and it's because it came significantly overpriced.
Right.
A, B.
And B.
The swim and racket club fell in
Other
our lap.
things.
I understood,
And,
but
you know,
Due to cost.
And I think that's more probably significant than A. I think B is more
$450,000
significant than A.
held back from the
We've just got
county.
too many competing demands right now.
To do this
And-
without knowing what the cost of the rest of them are.
Yeah.
Correct.
Call for the vote.
Okay?
And before
All
you
right.
vote, I just want to say, I mean, it's with some, well, I'm going to vote for it, but I just want to tell you that my heart aches for it because this is a very badly needed project, in my opinion, for Ocean Pines, and it's with some reluctance that we have to do this right now, but
I agree with you, and I really want a new Mercedes, but unfortunately I don't have any money. Call the question, please.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? All right.
guess you can't strike that from
The
the
next
record.
thing is for 14C drainage project that's done. The next one to affirm the 2010 Yacht Club closing. Now, you want me to sort of review the bidding here? Let me tell you, you know, you asked about where we are, and you wanted the head of the task force, the GM, to tell you where we are and when we're going to get a recommendation for the 10-year planning
Yes.
process, so you know when we're going to be ready, right?
So I can make good decisions on these
Okay.
type of votes.
All right, well, the answer is that the task force is proceeding, I think, at a pretty fast pace on almost everything that we said we were going to do.
Given the magnitude of it.
The Swim and Racket Club, they brought this guy in, and he said he's going to have a bid in 2 weeks ago, right, or within a week or whatever. It's not here. We now have a drawing of the modified revisions to the yacht club for the task force to look at, and then to present to the board for their concurrence, so we can go out and get this thing to bid on a design build type thing. And Bill Siegel's got that done, and Bill Siegel will have that at the next meeting, which is next Tuesday, I think, isn't it? He'll have that then, so the task force can look at it and say, yeah, that's good enough to take out the bid, and then we got to make sure you all like it or not, right? So that's where we are now. This, just let me give you, to affirm the closing, in order to affirm the closing, we're going to take the decks down, all the decks down, because they're all got to be done. We're talking about redoing the decks outside, because they have to be done too, where the current bar is, raising a portion of the decks on the marina side higher, okay? On the
But that doesn't significantly change the cost of what you gotta do anyways.
Right. So, but anyway, we're gonna, when you see all these changes, we're gonna have the third floor, because we're gonna do some HVAC changes, we have a place the brides can change up there and that kind of stuff. You know, and other changes, okay? And we gotta cost that out. So until we cost that out, we don't know what it's gonna cost, okay?
May I?
Yes.
No matter what grandiose plan that comes up and onto the table for us to look at. The fact is, the decks need to be replaced. They need to be replaced. They're not, I mean, we've got them shored up.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
We gotta
so maybe
replace
we'll do
the
it in
decks.
phases, although I heard one director before say we better not try this, do this in phases one time, but we may have to just do all the decks and do that and worry about some internal changes next year.
in this
We can keep it
economy,
open,
we may
couldn't we?
have to look at what has to be done versus what we'd like to have.
That's the whole reason I'm asking for
It's
the
the
long-range
difference between an
plan.
old
What do we
change and a
have
new
to have versus what we can live without right
Well,
now?
anyway, but based upon what we know right now, we are pretty certain that we're gonna be closing down.
If we don't close it, we can't fix it.
Closing down regardless, even if we just do the decks, we gotta close the thing down.
We have a
in the wintertime.
safety issue
So he-
with the
he
decking,
wants-
right?
He wants an affirmation that we're gonna do that, so knows he can press
It's my
forward.
understanding that that's what the board wants to do. I'm just saying, if that's true, then I want to make sure that I stand firm by it. If not, I want
I'll be happy to make the motion that I move that we tell them,
that we plan for the.
tell the gentleman.
Plan for the close, I think the key word is plan for the closing of the yacht club.
Yacht Club
Between a
in the
certain date,
spring
what is
of
it?
2010.
Yeah.
In order to correct defects in the decking systems, decking and foundation systems.
Yeah,
I mean,
We gotta
this
do
isn't
that.
something you can put off.
Gotta do that.
Or we can put it off
No, we
and
can't
then
put
end
it
up
off.
like we ended up over here.
We can't put it off.
No, you can't. I'm not, that's my
So
motion.
regardless
I need a second.
of cost, okay, I second it.
Discussion.
Okay, discussion.
Let's go a little bit further.
So regardless of cost, we have to do this. The reason why I put it that way is the last two bids that we got in was significantly overpriced. And we don't have an idea what this is going to cost.
Under budgeted, not overpriced necessarily.
We can continue to get these prices without costing us anything.
No, I understand that, but we're gonna tell the GM, the general manager of the club, that he has to close this place between such and time. As a result, when we tell him that, he can no longer book weddings or any other type of
Huge
receptions,
cost.
which is a significant cost
At
to
the
the
same
bottom
time,
line.
he's asked the food and beverage director to see what he could provide over at the country club.
I understood, but a lot of people go there for the my point is that we don't know what it's gonna cost. Let's say we estimate it to be $50,000. I pull that figure out of the air. It comes in at 75. We still have to do it because I heard it's a safety issue. So regardless of what it comes in, we're gonna have to find the money to fix the club. Is that a fair statement to make?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we may not fix it to the degree we want.
Understood,
this
but
year
we're gonna at least do the
inside, but-
decking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you do the decking,
You're
we
right.
gotta
An
close it.
example, if I may, an example is a swimming racket club.
Understood, yeah, perfectly.
Whether
fair.
or not we have the money, we had two choices: fix it or close it.
Okay.
And that could very well, we don't want to ever think that's going to be the case at the yacht club, but we cannot allow wedding parties out on a deck that needs to be replaced.
It's been a significant issue at the club's advisory committee about that, so, and that's the reason why.
We are, right, but we're going to move forward on this.
That's right.
I'd like you to finish the thought on the motion too, and that's that I think you expect us to provide for interim food and beverage services at the country club in the.
That's not part of my motion.
No, that's not part of the motion.
That's not part of my motion. My motion is
I just giving you
we have
information.
Yeah,
to
you know, I agree
close
with you.
the yacht club.
Period.
Yeah, that's
That's
all I
my
was looking
motion.
for.
You're not going to
Read-
sell
read the-
one
read the motion,
catering
Tom,
venue
if
at the
you
country
would.
club.
Clark moves, McLaughlin seconds that we plan for the closing of the yacht club in September 2010 until May 2011 for renovations.
And repairs.
For required renovations and repairs. I don't want to give the impression that I'm throwing my name in the hat to do a $5 million project.
Make it
'cause
necessary instead of required.
Yes, sir.
But I still think that we need to address part two.
Yeah, but we don't need to do it here.
We don't need to do it.
Okay.
Part two being what
Well,
was?
we need to do
Are you
it,
gonna operate out of the?
and I'm not gonna let you forget it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that, moving over to Turns Grill?
Him, I'm not.
That's already in the planning.
What's going to happen?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna take all those people and put them in Turn Grill.
We can't build
All
a
right,
new
all right,
building.
all right, all right.
We're
All
done.
right, wait a minute.
Put some on the
Tom's
payroll.
going to read the motion.
Okay. Clark moves, McLaughlin seconds that we plan for the closing of the yacht club in September 2010 until May 2011 for necessary renovations and repairs.
Okay. I agree with that. Now, is that definitive? We're using the word plan, so what are we gonna tell the
How
club
about
manager?
schedule?
Are you okay with planned?
Stop
He's okay with
I mean, I
planned.
know what you want.
He's okay with planned.
weddings.
Yeah, I know what you want me to do.
Let's call the question.
Call the question, please.
All right.
John, did you have a question on that?
Well, no, I just, you know, Joe is concerned that, again, words mean a lot. If you say plan, that's not definitive in nature. Are we gonna tell Joe not to book
Yes.
weddings?
He's already been told.
Yes.
Okay.
He's already been told.
He's already been
He's already
told
been told.
Okay.
Nobody,
He's doing this after
nobody
the
wants
fact.
to make
It's
that
covered.
step, but
Well, we're
unfortunately,
making it right here.
you got to get across the creek one way or the other, and that's.
Okay.
Please.
He's
All right,
telling wedding-
I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Oh, I know that. I know. Aye.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just.
All
He
right.
just wants it on the record.
The next thing is committee appointments. Okay, now, I want Grace Smearman, the chairman of the Tennis Advisory Committee, her time is up, and Dale Ash is a member of the Tennis Advisory Committee, and he's volunteered to be the chairperson, and he's a good person. The board liaison of that committee supports that, that's me, and with your concurrence, I intend to appoint him as chair of the Tennis Advisory Committee.
Great.
And what advisory committee was that?
Tennis Advisory Committee, Dale Ash. Thank you. Got that? Mm-hmm. Okay. The next thing is, we have a request from the chair of the Marine Activities Advisory Committee to extend Mr. McFall's term.
Isn't
as a
that
member of
defined
committee.
break policy one more time?
Yeah.
Why do we have these policies?
Well, relax, okay? Now, our policy is that we're going to not extend these people more than what the policy resolution is, unless there's some very rare circumstance that we really have to do this. I believe it is our opinion that we need to get new blood, that people have served the time, it's time to go. Whether it's a board member, whether it's a congressman, or whether it's, a person on the committee, okay?
Agree.
And I want to support the committee chairs, and this might make one of them angry because we aren't supporting him, but I see no need
Thank you.
to do that myself as a president, okay? So,
And the
that's my
person we're
opinion.
talking about
Now, I
is
know
a
Marty's
valuable
opinion.
contributor. I love the man. He's very important to that committee. But guess what? Time's up. If we're not going to have rules,
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on this?
I know they've searched high and low to find people to add to this committee as the liaison.
I don't know that.
I don't. I know that as a citizen liaison, I've talked to them about it. And they're having a difficult time finding members to come on the board. And as you said, he is a valuable member of that. Maybe we don't extend it for 3 years. Maybe we make a policy and extend it for 1 year.
not an hour.
John, let me make a comment here. If they can't find a person within a year, okay, he can come back on. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. And if we are one short,
I hear you, Bill.
I think it's a good policy, and except in extenuating circumstances, I think we ought to live up to it, so I support what Marty says.
Because
I don't even know the man.
it's going to mean they've got to think and start recruiting people, okay? And if they think everybody can extend, they're not going to do that.
Right. It's a good thing.
I do want to support the chairperson, but I'm going to tell them that again tomorrow. I'm going to say, please don't even waste your time anymore unless there's some really overriding circumstances where you can convince 7 people to change. Bob, do you have anything to say?
I'm torn. I got to tell you, I'm torn on this one. And here's why. If we have good community members that want to support the community in such a way as serving on a committee, and again, I understand we've got a bylaw or a resolution so you can or can't. For me, anyone that's active that wants to serve, I'm okay with it. Now, again, if it's going against policy and we need to take a look at that policy, that's for a later discussion. You got strong people, you've got a good chair that's saying, yeah, I'd like to keep the person, and they're contributing, as I'm hearing from John. I don't know the person. I don't have a dog in the fight here, but when I sit here and listen to this, if you've got good people that want to serve, my gosh, find a way to let them serve. That's Bob's opinion. You all have your own. I mean, for me, always looking for good people is tough.
The problem with that is they become stale, and I believe that, no matter how good they are. Now, if he wants to serve, Parks and Recs down 3 people.
Budget and finance.
Mondays on, meetings on Tuesday.
But what are their experience levels in those areas?
Bob, they can
That's
come
all.
back next year. That's all.
I understand. That's my
Okay,
When does it stop being an
All right,
advisory committee
based
and
on,
become a
Les, you have anything to
club?
say? You're just gonna sit there.
Les? Wake up,
As long as the yacht club stays open, he's for it.
All right, Les doesn't have anything to say. I'm not gonna.
funny.
Oh, that was a joke, come on.
As the president, I'm not gonna appoint Mr. McFalls, and I'll explain to Tom Quinn as to
support
why. Okay.
Are you gonna write him a nice letter?
All right.
We ought to get him a plaque or something. Nice.
Okay. Do I have any questions from the press? Is the press having a
What
good
about
time
these other
today?
guys?
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Wait a minute.
Okay, what? You got some more?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You
I'm
didn't
sorry.
call me.
I'm sorry.
We actually have some people that haven't been serving for
Oh,
28
okay.
years.
We're going to appoint Jim Bunting
What a good
to
guy.
the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee.
Yes.
I'm going to appoint him. And who else?
Now, I have this.
By the way, he does not live here, and I think that's a
No,
positive.
I don't have any endorsements from anybody.
Yeah, he's a
I
member.
don't have anything
Oh, he
from
owns property.
Frank.
I've read that. He owns a
I put
lot,
it- I
right?
think he's on Parks and Rec, but he never got anything back from me.
Maria.
You didn't hear from Maria?
No.
Maria's told me, okay.
Maria's told you okay?
Yes.
Okay, then we're
You
going
guys
to.
gotta tell us.
How do you?
Well, I thought she sent an email around, I'm sorry.
okay,
She sent me
so-
an email, wanted me to give my approval, I said not necessary.
Okay, so how do you pronounce his last name?
Got me.
Crucy?
Cruzy?
No, I think it's Cruz.
C-R-U,
Like Tom Cruise?
C-R-U, okay. Mr. Frank Cruz, if that's how it's pronounced, is hereby appointed to the Recs and Parks Committee. Anybody else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the press?
When's the meeting with the county commissioner? I heard it mentioned, but I didn't hear a date.
The dinner with the county commissioners?
No, whatever you
dinner.
want.
It's a dinner with the county commissioners. and it's
February
going to be
February 17th.
February 17th.
It's a tentative
Where did you
date.
hear the date? I never heard it.
I'm telling you right now, February
It's in writing
17th.
here.
Well, you heard about it when we first went over the calendar, Marty, and you
We
see
have
the
it.
pending action list every meeting.
That hasn't been fully established yet. We're working on the itinerary. The yacht club is the place that we intend to have it.
The only reason I mentioned that, I spoke with Sonny Blockman, because I brought this up at one of the meetings. I spoke with Sonny Blockman down in the county. He said that the county commissioner's going to be here. It's got to be open to the public.
It is going to be on the public, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
As was our opinion we had.
As will, it will be on the
God,
public.
Pete, does that mean I was right again?
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Are there any other public comments from anybody in the audience who wanted to wait till the end to make public comments? Just a minute.
You skipped right over this.
I can't read it, Marty.
Well, here, pass that down.
What is that?
Chief cook and bottle washer.
Oh, Judy Boggs, tell me.
I mean, if nothing else, we had to
Oh,
mention.
Judy Boggs is
What else?
announcing her town meeting date on October 24th, 2009.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Who are you and what's your
Joe
address?
Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road,
Thank you.
Ocean Pines, Maryland, 21811.
Go ahead.
As a member of the media, I was kind of happy for a fellow media person, Tom Stouse, to get what was a pretty good scoop, I thought, that he published in a paper about a week or so ago. But as an association member, I was extremely disappointed to see that it is probably, very likely, if not 100% likely, that he published information regarding the vote of this board of directors in private session related to a lawsuit that is currently in progress. And I speak specifically to the SPN. We're going to court with these people on October the 28th. And someone on this board of directors, unless it was Phyllis, and I don't know if she was here or not, but I kind of doubt it was Phyllis. Someone spoke to that member of the press and gave him the results of a vote that indicated that this board of directors is really just nip and tuck on whether they even want to go ahead with the case or not. That's giving aid and comfort to the enemy.
Couldn't agree with you more.
I don't know what you guys can do internally, Ray.
You got it.
Ships.
If anything, but I think you ought to have an investigation privately and find out who the heck did it.
You think that?
I agree with you.
I agree with you. You think that publisher would tell us if they asked him?
If I were Tom Strauss, I wouldn't tell you either.
Of course not. We've already talked to the members. This has been.
Well, with all due respect, we were all, I think, quite exercised about that, and we spoke to that at our last Board of Directors meeting. There was one missing director at that meeting, and so that director did not have an opportunity to hear the discussion.
Well, I have no doubt.
But we were very, and I'll just speak for myself, I was very, very disturbed.
We share your concern.
It was not just the vote, it was comments made, discussions.
Right.
As I said, and Marty, well, I felt violated as a board member, and I felt disrespected, and we need to have the confidence of fellow directors here that when we share something confidentially, it's held in confidence. And we said that to each other at a meeting, but again, one director was not there and is not here tonight.
And next Tuesday, we're going to go around the room with a whip until
There you
somebody
go.
admits it.
I think you ought to get out there.
All right. What's your? It's getting late. What's your next?
Wait a minute, I've been sitting here since 6:30, Joe. You were right, buddy.
Do we have a limit on the time for the press?
We had a lot of comment from Tom Olson and other people about Ted Maroney, and I share that praise. The man is excellent, does hard work. I have a lot of respect for him. I have a lot of respect for his opinions. Ted Maroney sat in the exact same chair that Tom Olson's sitting in right now. A few weeks back, when we were talking about the yacht club, tearing it down, what we're going to do with it. Tom's talking about where we put a bar, where we put a dance floor, what we're doing. Ted Maroney raised an issue, which is, to me, as an association member, the central issue that needs to be decided before we decide anything, before we tear up the first plank. What's the business plan? What do we want to do with the yacht club? Can anybody tell me that?
The primary, yeah, we said that. Primary food and beverage facility.
Well,
rhetorical question.
Rhetorical question.
You don't need to answer that.
I'm pretty sure if you did a survey, you'd only get somewhere between 8,000 and 8,000.
That's got to, yeah. That's important. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Are you through?
I'm through.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if Ocean Downs, you may consider that with the growth of the yacht club. You mentioned that earlier this evening about certain, many of these.
Your name, sir, and?
Mr. Wyman, 2 Ivory Lane.
Thank you.
Right. It was mentioned earlier by someone else about Ocean Downs with the slots.
I remember the public.
And they may want to have some kind of, different ways of communicating and getting people back and forth and events and things like this. And it was suggested that Ocean Pines may be part of that if they talk, I think Rickman?
Yeah.
Yes, and if they talk to him, because he seems to have a strong agenda on this type of thing up in Delaware Park, which I understand is not doing too well, but that's only with the economy, with the slots and things of this nature. But I think that should be projected into the yacht club. Are you going to utilize any of that thing if he has any kind of projection? You get to him with some thoughts.
Well, we could debate that for a long time, but that's something that I know that came from Norm Katz, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know we deserve to discuss that and to give him some feedback, I think. So thank you very much. I think, yeah.
Because your priorities seem to be first just the deck. That's the first, get the deck for insurance reasons and everything else, and one step at a time, rather than doing the whole thing, just priorities, and you can progress at one point. At least once something starts, it will be projected into the future. The other thing I just have a thorn in my thing is about this 10-year projection. That's going very far. No one can really predict a 10-year projection unless structural. But the future and everything else, the economy, there's no way you can project biddings and proposals and how much you're going to. You're just playing games. It's a dream. That's a reality. These are facts and everything else. There are no projections for 10 years except structural damage, and new improvements are coming out every day, and how you can project that, it's a loss.
Thank you.
That's my feeling.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Bill, could I give a quick compliment to Norm Katz? That wasn't mentioned, not relative to what he said tonight, but Pete was talking about the money that the insurance money that the fire department's not trying to get. Norm Katz is one of the initial people who first started pushing that. He was pushing it like 10 years ago. He worked and worked and worked, and I guess he's got some satisfaction seeing it come to fruition, but
It came to fruition.
I've read some of that earlier correspondence. He was, early on, he was behind that kind of proposal.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Bill, before you move on, did we approve all 5 of the committee applications?
Only the ones that.
I only had 2.
I have...
No,
4.
What?
I had a bunch in my box, Phyllis. I got Dennis Hudson.
approved
last meeting, there he is.
Oh, maybe that's the
okay.
reason why I've been
You
out
want
of
to
town.
object?
Well, yes, I object to that, okay. I was out of town, Dennis.
Well,
Gentlemen, I want to adjourn this meeting and move into closed session to talk about
Dennis, you've been
a
relieved.
legal issue, wait a minute, a legal issue related to the Bayside property and a personnel issue. So, Phyllis, you got that in that form? All right, do I have a motion to do that?
you have a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can you take a bathroom break?
Yes.